And good morning, everybody. Larry Krueger, Damon, Bruce. It is 49er Wake Up episode number 2. The Niners are 2-0. They beat the Rams at SoFi Stadium, better known as Levi's South, yesterday in Los Angeles. 49ers got a nice little win. The Rams with a late field goal to maybe interrupt the spread a little bit, but we are brought to you by Palmetto Superfoods, and we'll be talking acai bowls and good times with the 49ers off to a 2-0 start. Good morning, Damon. How are you, man?
Good morning, Buttercup. It's good to see you, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. And look, here's the deal. Not only are the 49ers 2-0, so there's mission accomplished right there. They're 2-0 without any injuries to speak of. I mean, we'll hear a little bit more about Brandon Ayuk's discomfort, but I don't think he has an injury beyond some discomfort because he never really came out of that game, but for a play or two. So they're 2-0. They're a tough 2-0, if you don't mind me saying, because, Pittsburgh was the game that they were supposed to lose, and LA had, I think, a little bit more of a balled-up fist to throw at the 49ers than a lot of people expected, and we'll talk all about that. I prefer Candlestick South to Levi's South myself, but it was a total takeover for 49ers fans. And Larry, this is as good of a start to the season as the brightest-eyed optimist could have hoped for. They've got the New York Giants on a short week this Thursday night for their home opener. Doesn't look like Saquon Barkley is going to be playing in that game. Now, before we start looking ahead, there's a lot of looking back to do, but this is really setting up to be a very good start for the 49ers after the tough task of saying, hey, open up with 2 games on the road. They've done it. Mission accomplished. And it's a fantastic start for the year. This is a team that offensively has all cylinders firing right now.
I don't want to hear one syllable about how the Rams are not a very good team and this and that. They are an NFL team. They are an NFL team that beat the Seahawks the week before in a very one-sided game on the road. And I will tell you this, after watching that game, it is perfectly clear to me that Stafford's got a lot left, whether they want to keep him and use him or trade him. He's got a lot of value. And Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams, Tutu Atwell, you may not have known those guys' names going into this game, but you know them coming out, and they're real. And those guys are going to pile up yards and touchdowns and touches all year long against NFL teams. I expect the Rams to win a number of games this year. How good and how unstoppable is Stafford to Puka Nacua? And when they get Cooper Kupp back, Damon, I mean, the Rams with Kupp and Nacua underneath and Atwell going deep and that little running back, Kyron Williams, and Stafford with his awesome arm and their improved O-line, I think the Rams are going to get some wins this year. I'm not saying they're going to go to the playoffs, but they may. And they could. If you told me the Rams went 9-8, would not shock me at all.
No, I wouldn't be that surprised either. It feels like the Minnesota Vikings are spending the first part of their year backpedaling out of postseason contention. Maybe the Rams pedal themselves into it. Puka Nacua was unbelievable. I mean, that directly translates to first ballot Hall of Famer, apparently, or Jerry Rice in Samoan. The 49ers had a lot to overcome. They had the brilliance of Sean McVay. They had the execution and the quarterbacking excellence that we saw, and Nacua, I mean, you talk about what you need to overcome on your way to a victory. The 49ers had to overcome what is nothing short of the greatest second game any wide receiver has ever had in the history of football. We're not going to worry about what he did against Seattle because that doesn't affect the Niners, but he came back and he had an even better game against the Niners than he did against Seattle. And that's because he's really, really good. And McVay and Kyle put on a hell of a chess match yesterday, Larry. I mean, everyone loves to scream about coaching. It's, what it's not good at, what the glaring weaknesses you think you see, and this, that, the other thing. Here's why the hoi polloi's glaring weaknesses really don't matter much, okay, when it comes to criticizing the 49ers. And you better get a couple of freaking professionals in here to really tell you what's going on, because you have been bamboozled. You have been misled by an awful lot of people who have tried to take their own bias and project them onto the 49ers with decisions that have gone awry, with players who don't meet their billing of what a true raw quarterback athlete is supposed to look like, vice versa. Kyle Shanahan, all those draft picks for Trey Lance. Like, we all know the list of complaints that certain sections of 49er fans have brought to the table over the last 2 years, as if these 2 years have been something to be incredibly embarrassed by. Well, Larry, where I want to start today, and good morning, everyone who is joining us. Hit like, hit subscribe. Doesn't matter where you're watching. Damon Bruce channel, Larry Krueger channel. We are simulcasting, and we are taking over the Bay Area. And this is something that you need to know. For this, especially so many of you who have been led astray by inferior eyes on football. I mean, I don't know any other way to say it.
Or just people that were pushing a narrative that it was not grounded in solid football personnel evaluation in any way, shape, or form.
It was bias. It was just straight. This is what
just like, hey, you know what? This is my guy. This is the guy I'm choosing.
Right.
And so I'm going to analyze this every single day so that the guy that I want playing quarterback somehow has the advantage. Right. And then when the head coach and the general manager yank your sheets and say, you know what? No, we actually know better. And we are going with Brock Purdy, and now he's 2-0 on the road, and yet here we are on Monday morning, and there's still people going, see, he couldn't throw the deep ball, doesn't have the deep ball. He overthrew the deep ball. Right. You guys argued all day and all night that he didn't have enough arm.
Couldn't get it there.
They couldn't get it there. He overthrew 4 deep balls yesterday. And good thing he did, Damon, because if he had underthrown those 4 deep balls, there'd be a parade of these morons screaming up and down that he doesn't have the arm strength. Instead, that's taken away because he overthrew them. Even Brock admitted, Damon, after the game, hey, man, I got to hit those. I need to be better. But so what? He took care of the football. They're 2-0 on the road. And this idea that they've beaten bad teams, the hell they have. The Steelers are going to win games. This Rams team is going to win games this year.
Larry, they've won 12 straight regular season games. Dating back to week 8 of last season, this is officially the second longest winning streak in franchise history.
Wow.
They won 15 in a row from week 12 of 1989 to week 10 of 1990. So remember who's been telling you how bad this all is. Remember who's been planting their flag and these guys don't know what they're doing. And then remember that they chose the second longest regular season winning streak in franchise history to try to explain to you how bad the 49ers are at football. And that is what experience, when you do want some experience from the journalists you read, the content creators that you frequent, you want a little experience, because if all you can do is complain about what is wrong while the team is enjoying its second greatest run of success in the history of the franchise, it's easy to conclude that you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Okay? It's easy to
or that you have some other agenda. But
that
you have some other agenda going on. The Niners have scored 30 plus points a game, Damon, under Brock Purdy now in 5 straight regular season games. Over 30.
But his arm strength. Let me tell you what. Let me tell you. And
he's not good enough.
Let me tell you what I know for sure. This is all you need to know for sure. And we know that we're talking about Grant. Okay, we know that.
I'm not talking. Grant to me, can say and do whatever he wants. I'm not talking specifically about Grant. I'm talking about other people who are literally this morning on social media saying that, yep, Brock Purdy still isn't good enough. That was he blew it. He was this. He was that. I'm not really talking about Grant.
He would have told you that Joe Montana sucked. He would have told you Joe Montana sucked. Joe Montana's not big enough. He's not fast enough. He's not enough of an athlete. His arm's not strong enough. Brock Purdy is a lot like Joe Montana in terms of physical attributes. Nothing overwhelming, no hair on fire physical attribute that makes you think, boy, you got to spend a first-round pick on this guy. So the greatest quarterback of all time wouldn't have been good enough for a certain sect of 49er. I pretend to cover this team for a living. And while they've been telling you everything is wrong, it's literally been going right in a historical fashion. They've won 12 regular season games in a row. Brock Purdy, for whatever he can't do, here's what he can do. Win every single game he starts and finishes. Brock Purdy has never lost a football game in the NFL in which he's been allowed to start and able to finish all in the same day. He is undefeated. So, second longest winning streak in franchise history with undefeated rookie quarterback who's playing like an 8-year NFL veteran. If that's not good enough for you, my friend, you've chosen the wrong vocation. I don't know what to tell you. You don't know what you're looking at. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know NFL history. You actually are, you're enough of a narcissist to believe that you know more than the people in charge of this franchise, and your opinion of what is good trumps observable NFL history.
Well, I mean, just don't ignore what you're watching. I mean, let's go back to that opening drive. Opening drive on the road against the Rams in their place. Now, granted, it wasn't really their place, right? It was 70% Niner fans. The Niners were in their home jerseys. It felt like a home game just on the road. But Brock Purdy on the first drive, 6 for 6, averaged 8.2 yards per attempt, got Ayuk, Debo, CMC, and Kittle at least one touch, mix in 5 CMC carries for 26 yards, including a 14-yard touchdown run. And there you have it. 11 plays, 75 yards, Niners on top. Jake Moody's first kickoff then goes for a touchback, and you've got this incredible start to your day. So, no, I mean, it's Purdy. I mean, look at it this way. That was Purdy not being sharp. We've talked endlessly about the word ceiling all off season. This guy's got a higher ceiling. This guy's got a higher ceiling. Brock's ceiling is too low. But we never, ever, ever discuss the floor. And in reality, if this is Brock's floor, where he didn't really play all that well, and he missed 3 or 4 deep balls, and they still score 30 on the road and beat a good football team in their building, and he has a perfect record, and the Niners have a 2-0 start on the road, I'll take it. I'll take this floor. And Purdy's going to connect on some of those deep balls, and it's like it wasn't like he didn't connect because he didn't have enough arm strength. He just overshot his guys. He overshot Debo. He overshot Jennings. He had 3 or 4 balls that were there, and he just overshot it. But to me, this is once again play. We talk about make a play, make a play, make a play, make a play. That's like the underlining call of action in football on either side of the football. Just make a play, just make a play. How about this? Avoid negative plays. That's what Breeze did. That's what Brady did. That's what Rodgers has done. That's what Joe did. That's how you win a ton of football games. You avoid the negative play. You throw the ball into the turf. Instead of throwing it in the middle of the field and floating it into a crowd, a la Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy was known as, look at the resiliency. He could bounce back from negative plays. Negative plays that he created. Yes, he could bounce back from negative plays that he created. I'd rather have a quarterback that doesn't create those negative plays and is not always trying to make amends. That's Brock Purdy in a nutshell. He took care of the football for the second week in a row, and that looks easy to do, and it isn't.
Larry, there are an awful lot of cliches out there attached to the sport of football, right? I mean, one of them is it's not the plays you make, it's the mistakes you don't make. And that's where Purdy the rubber meets the road on him. You're right. It's the mistakes he doesn't make. And then beyond that, he is better than just like the game manager that some people are trying to throw him into that category. He escapes trouble. He's got foot speed. He knows his way around the pocket. He makes his reads. He remains patient. He'll stand in against the pressure, against the rush. There is a real, tangible, winning NFL quarterback in Brock Purdy, to where I would think he would have success if Kyle Shanahan weren't holding his hand through the beginning of his career. Like, this guy just looks like he can play professional football. I don't know any other way to say it. And the data point that I would have to back me up is he's never lost a game in which he's been allowed to start or finish. That's pretty good. That's a really nice start for a guy who is brand new at this and looks like an 8-year NFL veteran. Now, on the chat, I see someone, Carolina Sinatra, says, if they don't win the Super Bowl, this didn't mean shit. Okay, if that's the way you approach watching an entire season of sports, the only portion of the journey that you understand or acknowledge or even care about is the moment where you either break the finish tape first or not at all. If that's all you understand, then it really shouldn't matter if the 49ers go 0-17, because there's no difference in your mind between 0-17 and losing in an NFC title game by 3 points.
Well, I'm going to call this out for what it is. This is the petulant child take.
Yeah.
It's like, if I don't get everything I want, I don't want anything. Ah. Sorry. Only one team wins. There's a reason cities, despite hemorrhaging money across the nation, throw costly multi-million-dollar parades for sports teams that win championships, because it's freaking rare and it's hardly ever done. And it's really, really special. The reality is there's 33 teams in the NFL, 32 of them, or is it 32? 32 teams in the NFL.
Total losers, including the team that lost the Super Bowl.
31 of them are failures.
Yeah. What you're
there's 31 failures out there.
What you only understand about sports is the moment when someone's holding a trophy. That's all you can conclude. You don't know how to evaluate who's doing well or who's doing poorly in their jobs beyond someone holding a trophy. And if they're holding a trophy equals good at job, if not holding trophy equals bad at job. The world will never be that black and white. And to say, well, man, let me tell you, I want a Super Bowl. Join the fucking party. Who doesn't want to
get in line?
Get in line, exactly. So look, what we would love you to do the next time you're thinking about what to do for breakfast, or maybe what to do in terms of healthy dessert, Larry, I want people to get in line at Palmetto Superfoods. They are the sponsor of 49ers Wake Up, and we want to tell you about the Acai Bowl. It is delicious. It is fantastic. You wouldn't think Larry and I would be selling acai bowls, right? We don't look like acai guys, but all you got to do is try one and you will be converted. Trust me, there are several Palmetto Superfood locations. There are more coming around the entire Bay Area and beyond. Larry, you and I, we tried one together. We looked at each other and we were like, damn, this is really good, and it's good for you. And they want to be in business with us. We couldn't have seen that one coming.
I know. And right now, what we'll do on the bottom of the screen, we have all their locations and their future locations. They've got 6 open now and on their way to 15 stores. And it's fun. It's absolutely phenomenal, as Damon said. I mean, we tried it. It was fantastic. I mean, just think of it as almost like the perfect breakfast. It's like it's light. It's healthy. It's tasty. I would say to anybody, try this and come back and tell me that you don't like it, because I think you will. I think it's almost undeniable that you will. And right now on the bottom of the screen, Damon, I have got our you can scan
Larry,
the QR code.
We're a promo code. Promo code.
We got a promo code: DB for Damon Bruce, LK for Larry Krueger. 15 for 15% off. So all you got to do is scan that promo code right there at the bottom of the screen and use the promo code DBLK15. That's Damon Bruce, Larry Krueger, 15% off, and you will get 15% 15% off.
15% off an entire order. And I need to let everyone know that this promo code runs through the end of football season, but it is only valid for one-time use in the app. So when you do make your order a few of them and get 15% off a few of them. It's only good.
Call your friends.
Because here's the deal. They don't need help selling these things. They sell themselves. They really, truly do. They just want you to come try something you've never tried before. And once you try it, you will be sold. Larry, that's the promo code. You can scan it. You can QR code it. It will take you to the App Store to download the Palmetto Superfood app. That's where you put in the DBLK15 promo code, and boom, you're actually eating healthy, which if you can do that during the football season at any point in time, that is a really, really good thing. Larry, again, we got a lot of opinions to offer up. The 49ers Wake Up will be incorporating comments from the message board. We have a lot of people texting and calling in. Well, we don't have calls. We'll figure that out a little bit later as we're taking.
Well, no, we can. We can go video calls at any point if you want.
At any point in time. Well, not today. We're not prepared to do it today, but we'll get to it. Maybe we'll do it on Friday.
What we'll do once we get this rolling, Damon, is we'll have a prize for the first person who joins us via video call from a Palmetto Superfoods in the middle of the show. I'm here. Here is my acai bowl right there. Maybe, you know what I'm saying?
Acai spokesmodel?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Excuse me. A little coffee.
So we will do some video calls a little bit later on in this extravaganza. Maybe not today, but we definitely will do video calls.
Mr. Bacon, Egg, and Cheese Croissant says, Damon, I just had an egg and cheese croissant. Well, that's great. I mean, you're living up to your namesake, so I'm proud of you. I think you're doing a great job.
Of course you did. You had to.
Let's just get into the facts of what we saw down at SoFi Stadium. First of all, 30-23 with the single most gambling conscious final score of a football game I think I've ever seen in my life. Like, McVay understood, I'm losing this game today. What's the one FU I can send? Well, if you had Niners and 7.5, I can go ahead, or, you know, if you had us getting 7.5, I can screw up the day if you bet on the Niners by kicking this meaningless field goal. Most coaches would not want the live rep of actual football action for a meaningless score. But Sean McVay chose to kick a field goal, which, now that the world of gambling is all around us, Larry, suspect is the only thing that we can say. That is, he clearly tried to affect gambling outcome, not actual game outcome, with that field goal. What'd you think of the McVay field goal at the end?
Well, I guess I gotta push back a little bit and say, isn't there some tiebreaker or something involved with total points? So, I mean, it's not like getting points doesn't matter at all.
I've never seen it considered quite like that. I've never seen a team.
No, I never have either. But I'm just saying, if he felt like that was his only opportunity to get points,
I don't know.
It did feel like he was impacting the spread. Now, as somebody who took the Niners and the New York Giants yesterday on a 2-team teaser, I wasn't worried about the 7.5. I was getting a half a point. So, I was giving 1 point. That's what it was. I had Niners -1, so I wasn't worried at that point. But yeah, I was sitting there going, wait a second. If you have Niners -7.5, and here comes the kicker on the final play, instead of going up top for a touchdown, you're gonna. But at the same time, if he had done it 1 second, let's say there'd been 6 seconds on the clock. Then they would have at least had a chance for the onside kick. They needed 2 scores. Maybe he was thinking 2 scores. Well, we'll take the field goal. If we have to, we'll take the field goal and go onside and then go Hail Mary instead of just going Hail Mary up front. I don't know. He needed 2 scores, and he took the field goal. But he knew also that there was only 4 seconds left on the clock, and a field goal takes 4 seconds.
No,
so
it was
dubious. Dubious is the word.
Good coaches win, great coaches cover. So I guess he was a great coach for a minute yesterday. And really, let's be honest, That's the only complaint I have about Sean McVay, because McVay was in his bag of tricks yesterday and he was outstanding.
Great coach.
He coached an A-plus football game, as did Kyle Shanahan, and we really did have two offensive masterminds matching wits with talented teams executing at all levels of an offense, with two quarterbacks who, even though they start in much different places in their careers, played incredibly similar. Similar games, very, just well executed game plans by two quarterbacks who knew what they were doing. The 49ers have now won 9 regular season games over the Rams. That's an incredible amount of ownage, again, over a team that's been good, won a Super Bowl, has a good coach, knows what they're doing, with maybe a Hall of Fame bound quarterback one day. It's an extraordinary winning streak just over the Rams alone. With the win, the 49ers are now 10 games over 500 on the Rams, going back to the all-time record. They're 78, 68, and 3 all-time against the Rams. They're 2-0 now on the year for the third time in the last 5 seasons. And that game also, you would talk a little something old, little something new. That is the first time in NFL history a game has been quarterbacked by the first overall pick of the draft, Stafford, back in 2009, and the last overall pick in the draft, Purdy, in 2022. So a very unique game that saw two guys start from very different places and perform that was awesome football. The first half alone, Larry, was truly an offensive masterpiece. The first half alone, the teams combined for 70 plays, 423 yards, over 7.05 yards per play. They combined for 159 rushing yards. They combined for 264 passing yards. So you had total balance. They combined for 34 points of flawless execution, precision, balanced attack, everything being in sync. Both these head coaches, both quarterbacks, every skill player, both offensive lines were getting the job done. Everybody's blocking. Everybody's playing A-plus, well-coached football for an entire half, which ends, Larry, with the first Kyle Shanahan put his nuts in a wheelbarrow to show you how big they are moment of the entire season, where he decided, instead of taking my cheapy field goal, I'm going to run a quarterback sneak with Purdy here with no time left on the clock and try to get this 17-17 at the half. And that was
actually the to me, where Shanahan really was smart in this game was the Rams' final drive of the second quarter. So the Rams are on a long drive, right? It was a 13-play, 88-yard drive, and they get down inside the red zone, and it's 1st and 10 from the 12, and they run Kyron Williams on a 6-yard run, and it was clear as day that McVay was just going to run the clock as down as much as he possibly could, try to get the touchdown, and go, basically make it Rams 17-10 going into the locker room. And Kyle said, not so fast, and he called a timeout, number 1, after the 1st and 10 run play to Williams. McVay came back on 2nd and 4 and ran Williams again. Warner stuck him after 3 yards to make it 3rd and 1. Kyle immediately called a timeout again. On 3rd and 1 from the 3, Kyron Williams went in for a 3-yard touchdown. Rams up 17-10. But because of those 2 timeouts, the 49ers would get the ball back with 1:45 left to play in that second quarter, and immediately Purdy hits Debo for 23 yards. Then he hits CMC. Then he hit Jennings for 24 yards on 1st and 10. So they move the ball down the field, and ultimately they get to 3rd and goal from the 1, and I agree. I mean, you could say going for it on 4th down on the first drive at Heinz Field against the Steelers in Week 1 was ballsy as well. But this was an example of, maybe in the past, where Kyle would have taken the field goal, tried to avoid negative plays with Jimmy or whatever quarterback he had, and just said, you know what, we'll go down 17-13 into the locker room. But he's got Purdy. He's got the full trust of Purdy. And sure enough, he gets down to 2nd and goal from the 1. And he goes quarterback sneak with Purdy, which I love because Purdy's small, smart, competitive, and strong in the lower legs. And sure enough, he pushed right through 7 plays, 75 yards in a minute 45, and they go 17-17 into the locker room, and that was key. Why? Because the Rams would get the ball to start the third quarter, and McVay was trying to do to Shanahan what Shanahan does to everybody else: get the twofer, the score coming in and the score coming out of the half. And he almost, he had things set up his way to do exactly that. And Shanahan said, no, I'm calling the timeouts here. And it worked. It absolutely worked. And maybe it was the difference in the football game. It definitely swung the momentum back to the Niners. And then when the Rams did get the ball in that third quarter, Isiah Oliver, with 2 series in a row, came through with big plays. He had the big tackle on third down to force the punt on the first drive of the third quarter by the Rams, and then Oliver had an interception of Stafford on a 2nd and 16 play at the Niner 32-yard line. A ball glanced off of Kyron Williams and into Isiah Oliver's hands, and he came away with it. So Oliver has not had a great summer, but man, back-to-back drives, he was big time for the Niners. That was easily the coming out party for Isiah Oliver in a Niner uniform.
Coming out of the doghouse that he might have been in with Kyle, that's for sure. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. But you're all over the place. I want to get back to what I think you just made is probably the biggest point that we're going to make on the show today. I don't know if you realize you just made the biggest point on the show today, and the biggest difference between the Niners this year and the Niners in other years with Jimmy Garoppolo or Kyle trusts his quarterback, Larry.
Right.
It's just that simple. And he is not calling those timeouts at the end of the half to give him the opportunity to drive a field for a late half score if he doesn't trust his quarterback. And we have seen Kyle not call timeouts and value time in those situations where he thinks, I got a quarterback who's probably more inclined to screw this up than come through for me in a big moment. And that is why we're watching a routine 30-point performance become commonplace for Brock Purdy. He has the full trust and confidence of his head coach. You can see it in the play calling, Larry, on 1st and 2nd down throughout the entire game. There is an aggressive looking to make a play aspect, not conservative trying to avoid mistake aspect to the way the Niners play while they're avoiding mistakes. So that's, when Kyle,
he has both. Now he's got both.
When Kyle dreams about what he wants what you saw him execute at the end of that first half. And as we're sitting here, rightfully so, waxing poetic about what a nuanced, interesting quarterback Brock Purdy looks like so early in his career, I don't think any of this opens up and works without Christian McCaffrey. And Christian McCaffrey is working right now as good as any player in the NFL at their position. He is the Patrick Mahomes of running backs. He's the Sauce Gardner of running backs. He's the Travis Kelce of running backs. He might be the best in this league. He really might be. McCaffrey's 268 rushing yards through his first 2 weeks of the season are the most for any 49ers running back since Garrison Hurst in 1998, including the postseason now, Larry. McCaffrey scored touchdowns in 11 consecutive games. That's the longest active streak of any player in football. And it's the second longest streak of any 49ers player all time, behind only, say them with me, Jerry Rice, who did it in 12 straight games back in 1987. So what Christian McCaffrey does in just terms of opening up elements of threat and eye candy, and you have to be paying attention to him everywhere he is at all times. That opens up things for Debo. That opens up things for Kittle, for Ayuk, for Purdy to make the right decision. Christian McCaffrey is honestly, if we're really talking like nitty gritty and we're going to get, the concept of Trent Williams or Justin Smith or Nick Bosa out of the count, we're just talking skill players. Christian McCaffrey might be the best skill player this team has had since Jerry Rice.
I'm not even convinced he's the best skill position they have right now. I mean, Debo Samuel yesterday. How about Debo? Debo had another rushing touchdown. Debo's got one or more touchdowns in each of his last 4 games against the Rams. He owns the Rams. And with 101 yards from scrimmage, Debo went over 100 in now 5 consecutive games against the Rams. I mean, to me, the one thing that's really clear and that what's going to make the Niners, if you say, give me your argument for the Niners are the best team in football, it starts on offense with Brock Purdy and Debo, Ayuk, and CMC all showed up this summer looking like they're primed for career years. And that's what we're seeing. Now, Ayuk's got a little bit of a shoulder problem, and you could see him kind of, he was favoring that shoulder, and he was limited yesterday because of the shoulder. But Ayuk is just awesome. And Debo's in the best shape he's been in a long time. And CMC has been like kind of the tone setter since minicamp. So you got 3 weapons there that are all looking like they're going to have their career year. And if that happens, the 49ers are going to be really, really good on offense.
I don't want to play the comparison game to who's more important, but I promise you, if you walked into Kyle's office and said, you got to drive either Christian McCaffrey or Debo to the airport right now, and you're never going to see either one of them ever again, he's taken Debo to the airport 100 out of 100 times. I mean, Christian McCaffrey is the guy who is making this go, not Debo. Debo is a piece. McCaffrey is the chessboard.
I kind of disagree. I mean, Debo can do everything. I mean, I don't even necessarily think it's Debo or McCaffrey. The guy who was the best player on the field all summer was Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk was the best Niner all summer, either side of the football. You threw it 10 yards in the air, the guy jumped. You threw it into the dirt, he dove for it. You threw it 5 yards behind him, he lunged backwards and made the catch. I mean, this guy acted like every ball intended for him was life and death. Now, he may be a little dinged, but I think Ayuk, if you said to me, who is the guy who I mean, CMC is great, but CMC also had 2 or 3 runs yesterday where he probably picked the wrong hole and just kind of got stuffed. He's not the most natural, instinctive runner. He's an incredible, though, fit for this offense because of the ability to catch the ball, block, toughness, second effort. I mean, he's a tremendous player and totally worth the price they paid for him. But if you said to me, you can have one weapon this year between those 3 guys, I'll take Ayuk.
Look, as a wide receiver, just pure wide receiver, you're taking the right guy. But to me, the ultimate weapon, the weapon X, the guy who is the skeleton key that unlocks everything is Christian McCaffrey. I mean, we're splitting hairs over
It's Ayuk.
No, you're wrong, Larry. You're wrong.
It's Ayuk.
What's wrong with you?
How could you say it's CMC? It's Ayuk.
How about this?
CMC would say it's Ayuk.
You only talk about players in certain positions when things are going wrong, and when things are going right, you just assume, well, that's the way it's supposed to go. So there's not a lot of reason to bring that up. I want to take you through one more fact of yesterday's game. And look, we had suspicions of Jake Moody being the right guy, for the job because he didn't have a great showing in early preseason action, so on and so forth. Well, through 2 games, he's been perfect on all of his kicks, his field goals, and his point after touchdowns. Larry, yesterday, he drilled that 57-yarder, and everyone's like, man, that's a really long field goal. It's the second longest field goal in franchise history. That escaped the broadcast as it was happening. It's the second longest field goal in 49ers team history. It's certainly the longest field goal by any rookie kicker in team history, the 57-yarder. David Akers had 2 63-yarders. Larry, going back to like our days at the Chowder House. Those are like the 2011, 2012 seasons when you and I were doing official 49er pre and post game from the Candlestick parking lot or the Chowder House down in Half Moon Bay. This is a debut of a kicker who was drafted in the 3rd round, who is just, this is what you want to see out of him. And
Jake Moody is the Oysters Rockefeller of kickers. He is the Oysters Rockefeller of kickers.
The Krueger Rockefeller, what we call them, the Oyster Krugefellers.
Yes.
Larry is an Oysters Rockefeller slut. I mean, my God. I've never seen a guy take take down 15 oyster Rockefellers like they were all Ritz crackers, the way that this guy would crush
just keep them coming. Just keep them coming.
Tray of oysters Rockefellers every 10 minutes until somebody passes out, and then bring one every 20 minutes.
I remember the waitress came over one time and was like, I can add 4 or 5 extra there. Would you like that? And I'm like, yes, we would. Yes. No, we're not turning down any oysters Rockefeller. We'll put them down. No, but Jake Moody, I did an interview with him this week in the locker room. And, it's funny. He's like, it's really things have been, he's an interesting guy, he's a Michigan kid who Harbaugh came to his school and recruited him to go to the University of Michigan. His nickname is Money. We kind of laughed about that. I said, man, there's a lot of pressure on you to make these kicks. Otherwise you can't have that nickname anymore. Right. And he's like, I know. You can't have a nickname Money if you don't make kicks. But then he also kind of mentioned how Matthew Wright, who was signed on, kind of helped him, talking to him about this turf at Heinz Field in week 1 because Wright had kicked for the Steelers. He talked about how Zane Gonzalez was really a help to him quite a bit, having a veteran kicker, who's right there competing with him in camp. Obviously, he holding his feet to the fire and competing, but also giving him some wisdom. And then he talked about how he's talked to Robbie Gould and how Robbie Gould is very much a mentor to him. And he said at the end of the thing, he's like, I probably owe Robbie a phone call. I haven't called him in a few weeks. But he's just a really grounded kid who's really solid. I hated the pick. I'll admit, I hated the pick. I hated the Brock Purdy pick. I hated the pick when the pick was made for the kicker in the 3rd round. But you know what? And to me, I didn't even see it as a need. I saw Robbie Gould, Damon, as, hey, he's never missed in the playoffs. The Niners are going to be in the playoffs. All that really matters is that, and just bring him back until he misses in the playoffs, right? I mean, just go with the guy who's never missed in the playoffs. But once they signed Hargrave to the multi-million-dollar deal, they were looking for cap flexibility anywhere they could find it, and Robbie wanted $5 million, and the kid's making $800,000. So it's they saved $4 or $5 million there, but you still got to have a kicker who can do it. And this kid has got a booming leg. And then to watch him all summer, I don't know that he missed. Then he gets into the preseason, he missed a couple field goals, he missed a PAT, and people got nervous. So far so good. He looks good, but yeah, I mean that long kick, that thing could have been good for 7 or 8 more yards beyond that. I mean, that was a monster kick. The guy's got a monster leg.
Welcome to 49ers Wake Up. If you're just joining us, Larry and I are going to be with you live the day after the 49ers play. No matter what day they play, we are live at 8 a.m. the next morning. This is a simulcast on both of our channels. It's wonderful to have you here. Please subscribe. Please notify. Hit that like button and make the algorithm officially pick us up and cradle us and rock us all the way to success. That would be lovely if you could help us out. What we'd like to do for you is tell you about our friends at Palmetto Superfood. Larry, bring up the promo code. There it is. You scan that QR code. It will bring you to the App Store to download the Palmetto Superfood app. You can pick it up. You can have it delivered, but one time, 15% off discount code of DBLK15. Damon, Bruce, Larry, Krueger, 15%. DBLK15 is your promo code. It's good through the entire football season, but you can only use it once. Scan the QR code, and that is how you will be stepping into the world of acai bowls. And you need to step boldly into that world. They're delicious. They're filling. They're good for you after, eating a whole bunch of barbecue and pizza and burgers and whiskey and gambling and all the stuff that we also sell you throughout the week. Start yourself with a little bit of a palate cleanser, with a little bit of a reboot for your entire digestive system. Get yourself an acai bowl. Look at me singing the praises of superfood, Larry. Who would have ever thought?
Exactly.
Who would have ever thought? The brothers Rockefeller are sitting over here now selling acai bowls. Nobody had that on the bingo card. No one.
No, but I will say this. We went down and met Charles, the owner, in Burlingame, and we had an acai bowl. We actually had kind of 1.5 acai bowls, and man, they were really, really good. Really
So
good. I mean, it's light, it's fresh, the acai berry is fantastic. The toppings are amazing. They don't use a bunch of artificial sweeteners. It's all sweetened with fresh fruit. It's really great for you. It's really great tasting. There's very few things in life that I could say, hey, you know what? All you need to do is try it. All you need to do is try it, and you'll be a fan. An acai bowl from Palmetto Superfoods is definitely in that category.
it's
If
like
you
40
try one of these, you'll be a fan. I'm pretty convinced.
Once you reach our morning show, there are no other morning shows available to you. You're going to find that. By the way, Larry, I do believe that we have created the single biggest morning show coming out of the Bay Area, and we are in week 2 of this experiment. So congratulations to you, to us. Larry doesn't seem like
Larry doesn't seem like a light and fresh kind of guy. What do you mean, man? I love light and fresh.
Have you ever seen Larry's bikini line? Oh,
Are you kidding me?
The cut of his ab, it's right there. It's just gorgeous. Anyway.
I got this body from an acai. I mean, and I'm honing it with acai bowls now.
Yeah, no, look, it's good for you, and beyond that, it's freaking delicious. So it'd be impossible to sell you anything that were good for you but not delicious. So we've combined them. It's good for you and it's delicious. And look at the two of us. You know what I'm going to do, Larry? On Thursday night, I am going to, before the 49ers and Giants games kicks off, I'm going to go get an acai bowl. I'm going to put it in the fridge, and I'm going to have one to show everybody on Friday morning during 49ers wake up just how good it looks. I mean, you look at it and you're like, dude,
we should have filmed our acai bowls when we were there.
That looks like one of the best freaking parfaits I've ever seen, is what you're going to think when you look at this.
The strawberries, the bananas, it's just so freaking good.
Just try it. It's really good. Anyways, take down the QR code. We can't give it all away at once. Larry, I joined you on your promo code on your post-game show. After I wrapped up my post-game show, I came and I joined you on the Krueger show to talk about early impressions and what we saw. And you asked what I thought was a really funny question. What's the one thing that people can actually be complaining about tomorrow? Like, what is going to be I'm trying so hard to create drama in a situation that right now is kind of drama free. The 49ers have checked all their boxes. So what, figuring sports talk radio is basically a list of complaints. What's going to be the first on your list of complaints? And we joked about it, and Nick Bosa, he's overpaid. He doesn't have a sack. What's wrong with Nick?
Oh, wait a second. I think I have one. I think I have it here, Damon. Here we go. And it comes to us via a super chat. Glass half full guy. Can we all agree to never have Mark Sanchez do another 49er game again? Good Lord, he's terrible and not funny.
So that's not an unreasonable complaint. Like, I'll agree with you. The glass half
I'll agree
guy,
with that one too. But if you're looking for edginess after on a 2-0 Niner team that is won 2 games on the road in impressive fashion, you might want to start with Mark Sanchez, who did sound yesterday like he was openly rooting for the Rams. It's like, bro, what are you doing? What, are you serious? You do understand this is a national broadcast, don't you? I mean, please, somebody remind Mark Sanchez.
Look, here's the thing. Mark Sanchez only bothers you when he's doing your game. I don't think about Mark Sanchez unless he's in the game. But really, that was a better game than Booth that got assigned to it. Kevin Krueger didn't have a particularly great day. He didn't bring up any facts. It didn't seem like he had his game prep really aligned. I heard Mark Sanchez call Brock Purdy a pass first point guard like 6 times. So that was the only talking point that he prepared. It wasn't a great broadcast. I didn't even think the guys in the truck did a really good job. When we get to some of the moments in the game that I thought, well, the game could have turned there, or the game was certainly allowed to develop like it did develop because of this moment. Just for an example, the Dre Greenlaw personal foul that we never really got to see. It set up a Ram touchdown, and it flipped a 2nd and long into a 1st and goal. And Greenlaw supposedly picked up Nakua's legs and flipped the legs off of him as he was getting up.
It was so. I think what happened is when Greenlaw's helmet and Nakua's helmet came face to face, Greenlaw I think might have given him a little bit of a headbutt. But so what? So what?
It was a soft flag, but it's one of those moments where the truck didn't even get to the portion of the replay that would have made us understand it. I thought the truck did a lousy job around the Debo almost fumble at the sideline, giving you the right or wrong angle. Like, it just wasn't a great broadcast all the way around. So, it's easy to throw all the slings and arrows at Mark Sanchez. He lives a better life than all of us will ever know. There you go. That's how he gets the last laugh. But while we were joking about, what's a legitimate concern or complaint, one of the questions that I think is, as long as you're willing to have a grown-up debate about it, because there's actually there's a little meat on this bone to chew here, Larry. Did you think that Steve Wilks was having a bad game, or did you think that Sean McVay and Stafford were having a great game? Because I'm willing to drift into the McVay and Stafford were just on a heater in a first half, and Steve Wilks, was it the best defensive performance from the 49ers? Of course not. The expectations are greater than that. But I also think that he got caught in the wash and just trying to figure out what he's seeing there. It wasn't great by Steve Wilks, but I thought it was a lot more to do with how good Shanahan and Stafford were than any worry about Steve Wilks or this defense that you should actually take with you going forward all year.
I like what I'm seeing from Wilks as far as the timely linebacker blitzes, and I think he knows how to dial it up, when to dial it up. I asked him this week. If you go back and look at those press conferences, I asked him about Tutu Atwell and Nakua, and I just felt like there's two. When I watched that Rams Seahawks Week 1 film, I thought, this is going to be tough to stop. Why? Because Atwell is a legitimate 4-3 burner who probably plays more like 4-2-5. I mean, he's one of the fastest guys in pro football, and you have to give him a lot of room. And his hands are really pretty good. You saw that bullet that he caught away from his body. He had 9 targets. He caught 7 of those footballs. And this Kyron Williams is a really underrated player. He had 100 yards combined and a couple touchdowns, and he runs hard. He's small. He can catch the ball. He's really nice. I liked him at Notre Dame, but I like him more now. But then Nakua is he doesn't do a whole lot. They'll run him on a jet sweep. They'll hit him on a little stop route. All these little short timing routes. And it's like, you don't really, scheme to defend the 5-yard stop route. And yet that's what Nakua features under Stafford, and Nakua are locked in right now. They had a great training camp together. They're on the same page. I mean, what they're doing is almost borderline unstoppable. I mean, you saw Diamador Lenore hug up in the second half and get close and make a pick and come away with some good contending where he contended for the pass and had a PBU. But for the most part, if Nakua wants to go 5-yard, 7-yard stop route or swing pass, it's virtually impossible to defend if you've got a guy like Stafford who's got a quick release, a great arm. You got a receiver that has terrific hands and is a real good route runner. When I saw that film against Seattle, I thought, oh man, this is going to be really difficult to stop, and it was. So I don't really blame Wilks for the game plan. I mean, the Niners have not gotten to the quarterback, but this is kind of the way. This is kind of a different debate, which is, should teams build their defenses or spend a lot of money on their D line when an offensive coach with the right quarterback and the right weapons can totally neutralize your rush by just getting the ball out immediately all day? And that's basically what happened here. Nick Bosa is sitting here with no sacks 2 games in because, for the most part, the ball's come out really fast the first 2 games.
One of the comments that I reacted to yesterday on my post-game show, Larry, was that, did Sean McVay just give the league the blueprint how to neutralize the 49ers' defensive strength, which is their defensive line? And in a way, he did. Having that ball out when your quarterback hits that third step on his drop is how you have historically always slowed down a defensive line, that in a screen game. But it takes someone as skilled as McVay to draw up all these underneath crossing routes that were wide open and popped open all day long, like you were saying. And then it takes a quarterback the level of Matthew Stafford to just be as precise. And Larry Stafford played about as perfect of a first half as you're going to see in the league this year. He was outstanding.
80, I'll give you the percentage. He was 14 of 18. So 78% completion percentage in the first half against the Niners D.
He was outstanding. I mean, you just can't play the position better than he played it for the first 30 minutes of that game. And so again, is this Steve Wilks having a bad game, or is this McVay and his quarterback having a great game? I tend to lean towards the latter rather than the former. I really just thought it was a great half of football from a great head coach and a really good, possibly Hall of Fame bound quarterback. Now, to answer Steve Wilks, everyone talks about the adjustments he didn't make. Well, most adjustments come at halftime. That's why you keep on hearing the cliche, halftime adjustments, halftime adjustments, halftime adjustments. Well, the first 3 Rams drives of the second half, Larry, were punt, interception, punt. And so Steve Wilks did make those adjustments. And I thought that the single, there were a lot of moments. There are always a lot of moments that go into determining a football game. This game on Sunday was, to me, as much about rhythm and flow of an offense that you're going to run into all year. And when Fred Warner sacked Stafford on that third down, it was the first real disruption of rhythm and flow, and it's when the Niners were able to get the ball back and have their 2-score lead grow. You know, they're up by 2 scores after that. And that was the moment where I thought the game turned. Now, if you want to say that the biggest moment of the game was how the 49ers played the last minute and change of that first half and Purdy sneaking the ball in for a touchdown to go 17-17 into the locker room, sure. You know, that's obviously a big moment in the game. But the robbery of momentum, I thought, happened on the Fred Warner sack of Stafford, maybe than any other moment in the game. I thought it was just a huge moment in the game. And Fred Warner is just playing his rear end off. I mean, he's
amazing. He's playing at a high level.
Unbelievable, side to side, in space, defending the pass, attacking the run, blitzing the quarterback. Like, you know, if the queen is the most powerful piece on the chessboard because she can move in every direction, Fred Warner is the queen piece of this defense.
Yeah, it was late third quarter, Rams on their 6th drive. It was a 3rd and 10 call from their own 25-yard line, and Stafford dropped back to pass, and Wilks dialed up the blitz, and Warner sacked Stafford on that key 3rd down, and that forced a punt. You know, that's the thing. You know, if you're a veteran defensive coordinator, that you can't blitz Stafford all day because you'll give him defined reads. He'll pick you apart. He'll find the open guy. He'll find the weakness. That's why you got to do it, and you got to time them perfectly. And I thought that was perfectly timed. If you go to the next Rams series, you know, the coverage was a little tighter. You had a Demo Lenore PBU against Nakua on a 2nd and 2 or a 3rd and 2. But then later in that drive, it got to 2nd and 22. And what happened? Fred Warner, once again, Wilks dialed up the blitz. Fred Warner came on a 2nd and 22 from the Niner 30, blitzed Stafford, and Stafford had to throw it away. Then the next throw, Stafford finds Van Jefferson, and Fred Warner came up and hit him so hard, the ball came out. And so they had to settle for a 48-yard Brett Maher field goal to make it a 1-score game, 27-20. But yeah, I thought those were huge for sure. The Niners, you know, they were a little conservative possibly in the first half, but in the second half they tightened their coverage. I thought the play on the Rams' 8th drive when Stafford, you know, was basically off balance. He was trying to go to Jefferson and Lenore jumped the route. I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about. It's like Diamador Lenore, and at that point, the coverage was a little tighter, and he jumped the route, got the pick, and ultimately it led to the 26-yard field goal by Jake Moody, and the Niners went up by 10. So, yeah, I thought there was, you know, Isiah Oliver made 3 really big plays. I mean, how about Isiah Oliver in the fourth quarter on the Kyron Williams tackle for a loss, where he knifed into the backfield, interrupted the direction that Williams was going in, and then allowed Armstead to kind of clean it up. I thought that was a huge play. So Oliver made 3 big plays. Lenore made some big plays. Wilkes dialed up some real timely second half blitzes. Greenlaw and Warner combined for 23 tackles, 16 solo, a sack, a tackle for a loss, and 2 passes defensed and a hit on the quarterback. I mean, those 2 stack backers are, and I said it after week 1, they're in their super prime. These guys are not just in their prime of their career; they're in the career year portion of their career. And yeah, I mean, right now it's those 2 guys are playing at an absurd high level. The Niners are playing a lot of nickel. They're playing a lot of nickel through the first 2 games. Played 90% nickel against the Steelers in week 1. They played a lot of nickel yesterday as well.
Larry, John Deming on the chat line asked, does Steve Wilkes eat acai bowls? He might. I mean, it's superfood. He certainly did at halftime because
he goes acai and a cigar.
Yeah. The 49ers played much, much better level of defense in the second half after an offensive first half of just a masterclass by 2 masterclass chess players with 2 quarterbacks who were both feeling themselves. Welcome into our 9 o'clock hour. Larry, we've been underway for about an hour right now. We have at least an hour left in us, so don't you go anywhere, anyone. It's great to have you here. This is 49ers Wake Up, brought to you by Palmetto Superfood. These acai bowls, again, we don't need to sell them to you. They sell themselves. Go try one, and if you've never tried one before, we're going to offer you a nice way to jump on into one for the very first time. Download that QR code right there. Use the promo code DBLK15. It's good to use once. It gets you 15% off your purchase. You must at least get a small bowl. It's basically what they're selling: small, medium, or large bowls. You got to at least get a small bowl to get the 15% off discount. And it works once this football season. And believe me, once you try one of these things, you will be back for another. I've been thinking about it. I can't wait. On Thursday, I'm going to bring Jillian to Palmetto Superfoods, and she's going to be like, we're doing something healthy together. And I'm going to be like, yes, honey, we're doing something healthy together. And I'm going to use my promo code at that time. You choose the time to use it for you. Download the QR code right there, DBLK15, for 15% off a one-time order at Palmetto Superfoods.
And there's lots of great locations, by the way. They're on Union Street in San Francisco, Clement Street. We were down in Burlingame. They're inside the Metreon. They're in Town and Country in Palo Alto. They got other locations coming in the city: Campbell, Mill Valley, Berkeley, downtown Walnut Creek, San Ramon, Mountain View. They got new ones opening in Southern California. They've got one planned to open in the Hawaiian Islands. I
smell remote, Larry. I smell remote.
I'm seriously, we should be the doorman at the Hawaii Palmetto Superfoods. But no, seriously, I'd never tried one before. My wife had them a couple times and said, oh yeah, it's really, really good. And so, we went down and had one in Burlingame with Charles, and it is phenomenal. I mean, if your normal routine is I hit Starbucks, don't. If your normal routine is I hit Pete's Coffee, don't. If your normal routine is I have an egg mitt at Noah's Bagels, don't. Switch it up. Go hit Palmetto Superfoods. Get an acai bowl. Do it for a week and compare how you feel the rest of your day after an acai bowl compared to your typical bacon and egg breakfast. And I would almost bet $1 to a dime that you're going to be an acai man for the rest of your life.
Nick J says, hot chicks in yoga pants love acai bowls. I'll go just to wait in line.
Ding, Nick, ding, ding. You've seen the vision.
Yeah.
You've seen the vision.
Yeah. It's It's a target-rich environment is all I'll say. Larry, take the QR code down. We will have it back up a little bit later on. Every 15, 20 minutes or so, we will come back and let you know that we are thrilled to be partnered with Palmetto Superfoods. I want to get back into the moments of the game that are easy to forget about because, the Niners won it. I don't want to say comfortably, but they pulled away in the second half to the point where in the last 5 minutes of the game, I really wasn't worried about the outcome of the game. You want to talk about the big moments of the game that nobody is talking about on any show that they're doing today. I'm going to give you one of the biggest moments of the entire game right here, Larry. First 49ers possession of the second half. Brock falling right on his own fumble under center. Had he not done that, had that taken a goofy bounce, you got the Rams in the red zone looking to go up. Instead of being, tied 17-17, you would have been handing them the football on the doorstep. So just that moment, and I think that turned into a 3-and-out for the 49ers, their first 3-and-out, maybe I believe of the entire season.
Right. Brock overthrew Jennings on the third and 7.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that drive continues. But you're right. I mean, because they were on their own 18-yard line.
Oh, my God.
If they fumble right there.
The feel of the entire second half changes completely. If the Rams are up, 24-17 in the blink of an eye because you turn the ball over.
And that is what Purdy has been doing really since he's been with the 49ers dating back to last year. He's taking care of the football. They're still aggressive. They're still taking shots down the field. And they're scoring 30 points a game. I mean, let's be honest here. When the Niners lost to Kansas City, last year at home, you're sitting there going, man, are they ever going to be able to climb this mountain? Are they ever going to be able to contend for a Super Bowl? Well, what do you need? What do you need to contend for a Super Bowl in today's NFL in a league that has the Eagles and the Chiefs? You have to have a defense. Well, they got a defense, but you also have to have an offense that can score not 20 a game, 30 a game. You need an offense that can score 30 points. The Chiefs averaged last year 29 points a game, number one offense in football. What have the Niners found with Brock Purdy? They have a young quarterback on a rookie deal, but he plays like a veteran. He gets them into and out of the right plays and the wrong plays at the line of scrimmage. He doesn't make mistakes with the ball. He takes care of the football. They score 30 a game. Now they are a legitimate Super Bowl contender. They got an offense that can score 30. They got a kicker with a big leg. They've got a situation where on the road it seems like their fans travel and really represent. So they never feel like they're outgunned on the road. They always have. It seems like their fans have their back. But more than anything, they got an offense that can score 30, and they got a defense that can keep you down. So right now, the 49ers are, whether you want to say they're the number one contender for the Super Bowl, number 2, or number 3, that's pretty much where the debate ends. Anybody who doesn't have the Niners top 3 doesn't know what the hell they're looking at. The Niners are a top 3 Super Bowl contender, and largely because of Brock Purdy, largely because they now have an offense that doesn't score 20 a game, that scores 30 a game. I mean, Brock Purdy missed 5 deep throws yesterday, and the Rams played, pretty good ball control, and, the Niners had a hard time stopping Stafford to Nakua. I mean, they threw it to him 20 times. He caught 15 of them. And still, the 49ers put 30 on the board. I mean, you could argue that was kind of Brock's bad game. In Brock's bad game, they've scored 30 points on the road.
Yeah. So not a lot of times Jimmy would have a less than subpar game where the Niners were looking good and scoring points like that. A guy named Kev F a minute ago on the chat said, you need 50 to beat Mahomes. Hey, feel free to pay attention to the football season that we're actually in, not the football seasons you remember. You don't need 50 points to beat the Kansas City Chiefs anymore. As a matter of fact, the Kansas City Chiefs have the same amount of points as the 0-2 Chicago Bears so far this year. Kansas City Chiefs are not coming out red hot, firing on all cylinders at all. They got back to level at 1-1. They're not one of those playoff teams from last year who's got an 0-2 start to this year, like the Vikings, like the Chargers. But the Kansas City Chiefs,
they just scored 17 against the Jags.
Exactly.
What 50 are we talking about? That doesn't seem like 50 to me.
Feel free to talk about things in the football season we're actually in, not the one that you're playing in your own mind, because there's actual.
Well, look at his weapons. I mean, let's talk about the four top receivers for Patrick Mahomes right now. Sky Moore,
Kelsey,
and Justin Watson. I mean, this is their four leading receivers in yesterday's game. Sky Moore, Justin Watson, Noah Gray, Kadarius Toney. They have Travis Kelce, who's awesome. He had 4 catches. He had a touchdown. Travis Kelce is 33 years old. So he is in the twilight of his career. You got an older Travis Kelce. What else you got? Jerick McKinnon, Rashee Rice, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Richie James, Isaiah Pacheco. The Niners today have better weapons than the Chiefs. The Chiefs don't have young Kelce anymore. They don't have Tyreek Hill anymore. Their weapons are not the same as they used to be. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, and in one of these years, they're not going to go to the Super Bowl. You never know. But, I mean, right now, I think the 49ers are right there. They're right there with the best teams in pro football.
Larry, Isiah Oliver had his first big game with the Niners. He had a big tackle on 4th and Rams trying to tie the game that halted the Rams right there. Earlier, he had the interception. In the week leading into the game, Kyle Shanahan was clearly down on Isiah Oliver, saying that if you watch the tape, you'll know why he didn't play much in Pittsburgh in the second half. Larry, you are much more of a tape hound than I have ever been. I really don't want. To me, watching tape means you got the toggle and you're going back and forth. Like you're at the all 22 watching tape, watching all movement of all players, not just watching a replay.
Right. And you know what? And I would encourage all football fans, order that NFL Plus. Get that NFL Plus. It's like $8 a month. And if you get the NFL Plus, you can watch a condensed version of the game, or you can watch the regular game, or you can watch the all 22 of the game 24 hours after it's played, and on any game around the league. So, if you really are one of these guys that likes to get esoteric and deep on football, $8 a month, NFL Plus, it's there for you.
Well, let me ask you, did you see anything on tape in the Pittsburgh game that you thought was the X marks the spot of why Isiah Oliver couldn't continue in that game? And what did he do differently in the Rams game that gave him the snaps to go out there and make 2 of the biggest plays made by anyone playing defense on the 49ers all day?
Well, Oliver has been pretty ordinary in every phase of the game this summer. I don't see a real physical player. He's tall. He's rangy. He could be a little bit more of a challenge against bigger slot receivers and tight ends than maybe Timo Lenore, but I don't see an intimidator. He's not the intimidator that Jimmy Ward was. He's not the cover guy that Lenore is. So, but I think in this game, what you saw was, that interception was a beautiful interception. He was right there. He could have gone, the ball got tipped, could have gone in any direction. He corralled it quickly. He's a smart player who's coming off of his most successful season. He did not look good at Colorado coming into the NFL, playing outside corner on the boundary. But you know what? A lot of guys really struggle when they move inside on the slot. In Oliver's case, it was the opposite. He flourished inside in the slot. Now, why? Because he's probably pretty cerebral. Things happen very fast. If you have the right thoughts, you're in a better spot because you're closer to the action. You got to react quicker. But you also have to deal with the two-way break. Guys can break in, guys can break out. You have to, be willing to mirror them, or being able to mirror them whatever way they break. I just think that he's more comfortable in the defense, and also I'm sure Wilks has challenged him. The one thing about Wilks, I'm sure Wilks probably handpicked him. He played against Carolina the year before, and when Oliver struggled this summer, Wilks was the guy who said, "Hey, this is our guy." And then he made the roster. I didn't think he would make the roster over Deshaun Jameson, but he did. And as far as what happened in week one, I mean, I thought the coverage was a little soft. And I thought the coverage was definitely better here in week two against the Rams. Now, he's not the fastest guy. So, he's going to do better against the slot receivers that aren't shifty and quick. He's going to do better against the kind of the longer, rangier, slower moving slot receivers.
Well, that certainly wasn't Puka Nacua yesterday. And are you kidding me with this guy? I mean, it's one thing to make a nice debut in your rookie year. It's another thing to have essentially wrapped up NFC Rookie of the Year after 2 games. I mean, and Puka Nacua is clearly going to be the offensive Rookie of the Year in the NFC. I mean, my God, do we need to now, with the emergence of this guy, Larry, kind of rethink Cooper Kupp's place in history? I mean, how much of this is the scheme, the quarterback getting that player open? Because Nacua has burst onto the scene in a manner in which no rookie wide receiver has ever burst on the scene in the history of football. So he is in the perfect situation, like Cooper Kupp found himself in, or he really is about to go ahead and have for us, Puka Nacua is a household name 2-3 years from now. And, he's Tyreek Hill again. We're going to be talking about him until he gets inducted into Canton. Is that what we're looking at? Because what a start.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's real. He's absolutely real. He started at University of Washington. He eventually transferred to BYU. He's from Utah. He was the Utah Gatorade Player of the Year. He was Mr. Football in the state of Utah at Orem High School. He was very productive. So this guy's just been able to play football for a long time. His brothers all played. He's got a younger brother, Samson and Kai Nacua. He's got an older brother, Isiah Nacua, and all the family plays football. And this guy knows how to run routes. He understands leverage. His route running is crisp. He's in and out of his breaks cleanly. The guy's got a basketball background, so he's a former basketball player. So
grip hands. I mean, he is just picking the ball out of the air. Just
great hands, really strong legs. He's not bothered at all by the physicality or the hand fighting. And he was great at BYU on those jet sweeps, and you saw a couple of those yesterday. He's tough. He's a slippery guy. He's hard to tackle. I don't think in any way it takes anything off of Kupp, because it's not like the scheme made this guy. This guy is this guy. What I think people ought to take away from this is when Kupp comes back, this is a team that is going to be very, very difficult to defend the short passing game against, because Kupp can do all the same things that this guy can do, except he's even quicker. So, Kupp's an amazing player if you think about it. He's a 4'6" wide receiver who's the dominant player in a league full of guys who run in the 4.3s. And Nacua's not a burner either, but he's never going to really... he's going to struggle against press coverage. The Niners are a team that play a lot of zone. If you play a lot of zone, this guy's going to torch you. If you play a lot of off coverage, this guy's going to absolutely eat under. He's going to make a living underneath. You got to play press coverage against him. What's tough is that Atwell's such a burner that if you play press coverage on him, he can run right by you. So the one thing with Nacua, he's not an awesome accelerator like a lot of NFL wide receivers. He definitely runs upright, and that makes it easier for DBs to knock him off his stride. If you play press man at the line of scrimmage, bump him, and are super physical with him, you got a shot. But he doesn't have the long speed to run by you, so corners are going to squat on his routes. And the Niners, I thought, were a tad bit conservative. And if you get him into a rhythm early, that's why I brought this up to Wilkes. I'm like, man, you better hit the hell out of this guy, because unless you pound him, he's just going to sit in the soft spots in the short zone and torch you all day. And I expect him to do that. He's not a downfield guy, but he's a chain mover. He is the guy that keeps the drive going on 3rd and 6. And the way Stafford throws with the arm speed, the accuracy, how the quick release, and this guy's ability to run the short routes and his ball skills. Once they get cut back, they're going to be no picnic. You're going to have to get up on the line of scrimmage and just dare them to throw it over the top of your head. And yeah, I mean, the Rams are real. I mean, my big takeaway is that my number one takeaway of this game is the Rams are real. My number two takeaway on this game is the Niner offensive line deserves a lot of credit. Was Aaron Donald even on the field? It was like he wasn't even out there. And the Niner O-line, which got criticized and maligned heavily, people worrying openly about Burford and McKivitz on the right side. I don't know if they should worry as much. They look pretty good in this game, didn't they?
The demise of the LA Rams has been over-exaggerated. They might have the least recognizable team on paper. They're not the worst team on paper. And these games aren't played on paper. They're played on a football field, and they were pretty damn good. They were close to beating the 49ers. They were a couple of plays away from beating what I think we're all looking at as a very good Niner team with the highest of expectations attached to it. So a great afternoon for McVay. And while we're talking about the Rams, before we get back to the Niners specifically here, Larry, on 49ers Wake Up, let me just ask you about Matthew Stafford. Where are we going to end up with him in history, in the hierarchy of his contemporaries? Matthew Stafford is just, he's had a very interesting saga to his career. The best quarterback in Detroit Lions history, no question about that. But because of Detroit, he was never able to win anything. So as soon as he gets paired up with a good coach and a good team and a good franchise, he wins a ring. He's got a team this year now that was supposed to, on paper, be as bad as some of those bad Detroit teams he was on, and they're cooking with fire offensively after 2 games. Again, in the first half, he looked like the MVP of the league yesterday. He was outstanding. He was borderline perfect. It wasn't until his second half turnovers where things started to unravel for him. And if you want to count the second half Stafford played in the Seattle game in week 1, in the first half he played and put those together for a fictional game, that's maybe one of the best quarterback games of the entire year. I mean, Matthew Stafford is so hidden in plain sight with a level of arm talent. Again, when you watch Matthew Stafford throw, that's the level of arm talent that Niner fans who are still complaining about Brock Purdy are complaining about. The gods of Zeus himself kissed Matthew Stafford on the right arm when he was being born and gave him something very few humans have ever possessed. A truly elite arm, up there with Jeff George and Dan Marino and John Elway and the great Patrick Mahomes, just absolute freak of nature walking among us. So where do you put Matthew Stafford? Maybe not all time, Larry, but amongst his contemporaries since being drafted in 2009, he has at worst been very good. And when he shed the Detroit Lions, he became a champion.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I was working for Mad Dog Radio the night of the draft in 2009 when he was drafted by the Lions with the first pick overall. And that was the draft where there were 2 quarterbacks that went high in that draft, and it was him, and it was the guy who broadcast the game yesterday, Mark Sanchez. And I remember saying 15 to 20 times on that broadcast, Stafford's going to be a star, and Sanchez is just a guy. And nobody wanted to hear that. Why? Because the Jets were the pick of Jets were the team that took Sanchez, and they wanted.
You had Pete Carroll going like, he's not ready. It was one of the weirdest. This guy saying he's going to the pro press conferences ever, and Pete Carroll's like, he's not ready to go, but he's going.
Yeah, no, I mean, I said right there over and over and over again. I go, Stafford's super special, and Sanchez is just a guy. And people lost their mind on Mad Dog Radio because it was mostly a Northeast audience.
Sure.
And it was like, oh, my God, how do you know Stafford's going to be good and Sanchez? So I'm like, well, whatever. Take my word, don't take my word. I don't really care at the end of the day. I'm just telling you, Stafford's going to be good. And Sanchez is just a guy. One, because Stafford's got a big-time arm. Now, he does throw a lot of picks. I mean, the guy's had 20 interceptions as a rookie. He's had double-digit interceptions. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He's had 11 seasons where he's had 10 or more picks. He's got like 5 seasons where he's had 15 or more picks.
He thinks he can put the ball anywhere. And
yeah, he just
says he can, but yeah.
And you got to throw some 50-50 balls. He's never been afraid to throw the 50-50 ball. He had Megatron for a while in Detroit. He's to me, think about it. You got drafted to Detroit. Detroit's been terrible. He found a way to go 10-6 one year with them. He found a way to go 11-5 in 1 year with them. He had back-to-back seasons in his late 20s where he went 9-7 with them. But they're just a bad outfit, and they just always shot themselves in the foot. Then he gets to the Rams, and immediately year one. He goes 12-5. He throws 41 touchdowns, 17 picks. They win the Super Bowl, and now he's 35. Now he's older, but I would say he's got at least 3 or 4 premier years left, at least. And here's my question: I'm wondering, Damon, is if the Rams will be so interested in being part of the Caleb Williams sweepstakes that they may try to shop Stafford and or Aaron Donald at the end of October to, and kind of turn the page on this entire regime. There has been talk that Stafford has been available for trade in the offseason. Now, we don't know what the Rams' asking price is, and I bet you it's pretty high. But even though Stafford looks great, and I think there's a shot that that McVay and Les Snead may decide they want Caleb Williams and see if they could trade those two guys and get a draft, cachet of draft picks that would enable them to trade up in the draft and get, one of these top tier quarterbacks. And if it's not Caleb, maybe Drake May, maybe somebody else.
That's not going to happen. You can't do that. You cannot do that.
He's 35, and they're probably not going to win another ring here.
They're probably not, but they've got enough going with wide receivers, young wide receivers that they want to develop. I think that would just be a funny way to go about doing business. Plus, who is going to give you the kit and caboodle from Matthew Stafford?
Maybe the Jets.
Maybe the Jets. But I've also heard that the Vikings are 2 losses and an 0-4 start away from saying Kirk Cousins is available. So,
yeah, but Stafford is way better.
Right. But
I think.
What do you have to give up for either of the guys? And if you're the Jets, you have a guaranteed Aaron Rodgers return at some point. What are you going to have, Matthew Stafford and Aaron Rodgers on your team?
I think Rodgers, to be completely honest, Damon, I think Rodgers is done.
He might be.
You tear an Achilles at that age and you're playing on that surface. I'd be shocked if Aaron Rodgers comes back.
The only thing that Aaron Rodgers has really going for him is he's not married. He doesn't have kids. He's got nothing to be married to other than football. If there's ever someone who is stubborn enough to try to work their way back from an injury that means you don't come back, it's probably him.
How old is he, though?
He's going to be 40 in December.
Yeah, Brady played to 45, but Brady is the exception.
Right. I just think Stafford, who's got this guy's got an absolute cannon. He came to carve up the 49ers with fast releases and wide open crossing routes and a coach who knew what he was doing. And it's amazing. We say that McVay clearly knows what he's doing, and he does, but he's lost 9 in a row to Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers. Now he's got
except for the NFC Championship game.
I think, well, again, we're not counting that. Counting that. But what's funny is that Kyle's got all this major, beating you by 60 plus points over this 9-game thing. And McVay's one win was by 3 points in the NFC title game. So even that was the razor thinnest of margins. But look, they did it. When you win, especially in the postseason, you don't need to apologize for anything.
I'll say this too. I think Shanahan is in his head, and I think these guys are real rivals. Because think about it. Since the Niners, you went into that game on a Thursday night last year and ran the ball, was it 18 straight times at the beginning of the game, and just ran it down the Rams' throat. Since that point, the Rams have kind of they've changed their whole approach. They've gone to this, hey, we need to be tough. We need to be tougher. I think the Niners have kind of made it a referendum on toughness, and the Niners have been tougher on the line of scrimmage. I mean, that's really it. And the Niners have done an incredible job of neutralizing Aaron Donald in almost every moment along the way, except for that NFC Championship game in the final drive. I mean, ultimately,
game-deciding sack.
Yeah, but I mean, ultimately, the Niners have neutralized Aaron Donald, and the Niners have played ball control. And if you think about it, that first Niner game, the Niners beat him up physically. That second Ram game, and when they won the Super Bowl, and they beat the Niners in the NFC Championship game a couple years ago, that second Niner Ram game, they decided they were going to run the ball a lot with Sony Michel, and they only threw it to Cooper Kupp 7 times, and they completed all 7 passes. The Niners had never really stopped Cooper Kupp, and yet they had beaten the Rams twice. And then, sure enough, in the NFC Championship game, with the money on the table, McVay finally said, "Hey, look, they haven't stopped Cooper Kupp all year. We'll throw it to Cooper Kupp," and they threw it to Cooper Kupp, and it worked. Niners never stopped him.
Talk about working this year. I thought Debo scored in that fourth quarter on that screen, running through 2-3 dudes to get to the end zone. He doesn't score on that play a year ago, Larry. That is the in-shape, all-weapon X Debo that you got to know in 2019, came back with a vengeance in 2020, admittedly had a year that he, wasn't proud of last year. And he committed himself to coming back in shape. He scored his first touchdown of the year. He loves playing the Rams. Sometimes certain uniforms bring out the best in players. Debo had his first I'm here game of the year. And if he keeps that up, again, the Niners are just going to be really, really hard to beat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, that was a phenomenal play, too. He could have easily gone out of bounds, but he decided, you know what? I'm getting into the end zone. It was a 1st and 10 play from the 11-yard line. Purdy threw a little bubble screen out to Debo on the side there, and he easily could have run out of bounds and made it 2nd down. But he's like, no, I'm hitting pay dirt here. This might be the only touch I get right here, and I'm gonna make it count. And that made it 27-17. Yeah, it showed great footwork on the part of Debo and great determination to hey, I'm getting into the end zone on this play. He's a tough guy to bring down. The one thing I'll say that I would love to see more of Debo in is I don't like the hitches and the bubble screens as much as I like the end around. Give me Debo Samuel with 3 steps of momentum. He carries so much weight in his legs. He's so difficult run after the catch to try to corral this guy. He becomes he's a wide receiver who's got wide receiver speed, but runs with the power of a freaking old school power back.
In a China shop.
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants any part of him when he's got 2 steps or 3 steps of momentum. So get him on those end arounds. Get him where he can run for 3 strides, and then before he gets to the defense, I'll take my chances, man, because he's either gonna run over you, run around you, deke you. There's lots of ways for him to win, but if you throw it to him just flat-footed in the flat and say make something happen, he's not Tyreek Hill. He's not just gonna jumping out of the way and everything. I mean, he did on that one play that we're discussing on the touchdown where he kind of was very. He didn't have a lot of momentum going, but he used some footwork, a little pick and slide, and got to the end zone. But give me Debo with 3 steps of momentum, and he's unstoppable.
Larry, bring up the promo code. We are at 9:30, so I want to tell everyone again that 49ers Wake Up is indeed brought to you by Palmetto Superfoods. The Acai Bowl is really something special. They have the single best Yelp-reviewed Acai Bowl in the Bay Area, and there's a reason for that. It's not a whole bunch of sugar that they pumped into it. It is delicious. It's clean. It's superfood. Palmetto Superfoods is our sponsor, and they are giving you a chance to use their QR code to check out their restaurant and then use the promo code DBLK15 for 15% off a one-time purchase. And this is going to last all football season long. But once you use your promo code, it's gone. Again, they just want you to try something once, and you're going to try it once, and you will be sold on how good it is. If it made 2 fat boys like me and Larry smile ear to ear, imagine what it'll do for you. Try Palmetto Superfoods. The Acai Bowl is fantastic. fantastic. All right, Larry, promo code down. We keep going because we're really getting into the home stretch here of this show. And by the way, home stretch means we have at least another hour, but I want to continue to focus on a few moments in this game, a couple of highlights in this game, and then we got to go around the NFL to wrap up everything that kind of happened in week 2, because it was a really interesting slate of games that played out yesterday. It's one of those plays that when you have, you saw it, you're like, man, that's a good play. But then, you're doing a show the next morning and you don't even bring it up. Well, not this show. This show brings up the plays that other shows forget to even mention. Brock Purdy hitting Jennings early in the fourth quarter on a 31-yard field flipping play was another one of those big, put a star next to it, types of plays in this game. It was big because it helped flip the field. It got the Niners into scoring range. It really extinguished an element of, the Rams can come back today. They're going to go ahead and get this one back, and they're going to, the Niners are going to screw this up somehow. It was a big play just in terms of momentum and field position. And it's also an announcement that this isn't just Ayuk and Debo and McCaffrey and Kittle. Jennings is becoming a better football player every single time I watch him, Larry. He's having a better game somehow, some way, and he's doing all that little garbage, dirty work on the end. The Christian McCaffrey 51-yard scamper when he came up after stiff-arming Ahkello Witherspoon, giving him the old what for, talking about his mama at the end of it. Christian McCaffrey was talking smack yesterday at the end of that run. That run doesn't happen without a huge downfield block from Jennings. We had just talked the week before about Ayuk and Ray McLeod having crucial downfield blocks, getting McCaffrey in for his longest run as a 49er. Explosive plays happen when wide receivers are blocking. And we've seen it 2 weeks in a row. McCaffrey peel off this huge run based to the overall team help he's getting. George Kittle didn't have a great game yesterday. 3 nondescript catches for 30 yards. He made one of the biggest blocks of the afternoon on a kick-out block that McCaffrey just came right off the butt of and went right up the sidelines. I'm loving the way Jennings is playing and really establishing himself as a Niner that you don't talk about an awful lot, but is as essential to this team's success as any player you're going to find.
It's interesting. Peter King was saying how, he talked to John Lynch, and that when the Niners took over this regime, when they took over Lynch and Shanahan, that they really badly wanted wide receivers that were separators, guys who had big time speed and separated on film, and that they have changed their philosophy now to, bigger, more physical receivers that have ball skills. And it is interesting. I mean, we're talking about Cooper Kupp. We're talking about he ran 4.62. We're talking about Puka Nacua. He did not run a great 40 time. Now we're talking about Jennings. Jennings 40 coming out of Tennessee, 4.72 is what he ran at the combine. That's like, almost, there's like offensive linemen who run that fast. But Jennings was the Tennessee Mr. Football in his senior year in high school back in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I mean, and he's not
played in underpants,
right? He's a receiver. He is a receiver. He's not fast. He's got size. He's got savvy. He's got toughness. But he lacks functional speed. But he's big and he's strong and he's savvy and he is competitive at the catch point and he's got really quick hands, and he can break tackles and he's got terrific balance and guy plays with unbelievable determination. The other thing is that this guy's a great athlete. Like if you're in the locker room, they got a basketball hoop in there. I've seen Juwan sit there and hit like 15 jumpers in a row. I mean, this guy's a serious hand. He's got hand-eye coordination. He'll make the catch in traffic. He's efficient. He can track the ball in the air, and then he's got size. He's got aggression. He'll block. He'll lock you up as a blocker. He's not afraid of the moment. This guy's not one of these guys that gets all nervous. You don't work football, you play football. And this guy plays the game, and he brings a lot of juice and a lot of energy. He's one of the leaders on the team. Third and Jawan. They go to him in big situations. He's made some of the biggest catches in Niners history in recent years, have gone to Jawan Jennings. There's not a Niner fan. The Niners have Ayuk and Debo and Kittle and CMC. And yet if tomorrow was the NFC Championship game and they got to third and long and they threw it to Jawan, every knowledgeable Niner fan would not one of them would question it. Why? Because he's held in that higher regard as far as being a money player. So yeah, he's big time, man. He's tough. He's determined. He'll hit you. He's got tons of attitude. It's funny. My Tennessee volunteer buddies, when they drafted Jawan, were like, "Oh man, you're getting this guy. This guy's amazing." And I'm like, the guy ran 4.72. That's one of the slowest receiving times of all time. I don't even think this guy's going to make the team. And it's like, oh no, dude, this guy's the guy. He's the guy. And so, sometimes you got to trust people that have seen him play. And the Vols fans were like, "Hey, man, this guy's big time, and he's been big time. He's probably entering his final year with the Niners, Damon, because he is a free agent at the end of the year. Somebody is going to pay him because he's too valuable. But man, right now, as a possession guy, he's phenomenal.
Jawan Jennings is exactly the guy who's perfect for the job at the right price. If he plays himself into an overpay somewhere else, good for him. And good luck to the team that decides to do that. He has a niche. He has a spot. He fills it for the 49ers. He's the perfect Niner. He's the perfect fourth guy to be a concern about. But I like Jawan Jennings. I hope he gets paid. I hope he makes millions and millions of dollars. He's my kind of football player. And it's amazing how often it takes a football game to reveal who can actually play football. It's not a combine time. It's not sprinting against air. It's not throwing against air. Lots of guys in this league. Every guy in this league looks great. What happens when the game starts? Jawan Jennings is making plays when games start. Look, Brock Purdy has yet to lose a game in this league, regular or postseason, that he's been able to start and finish. That, you would think, along with coinciding with the second longest regular season winning streak in the history of the 49ers franchise, would be enough to satisfy some people's concerns. But this morning, the dumbest among us only want to talk about overthrows and a couple of players that he didn't hit. The big touchdown that wasn't to Debo, because Debo would have caught that, he would have been in the end zone. Ayuk had an awful lot of green in front of him. That probably goes for 6. He overthrew Jawan Jennings on a third down as well that would have kept a drive going. So there are 3 throws that Brock absolutely would have wanted to have back, and there's plenty of time to work on those. Guess who also missed open receivers yesterday in games that I was watching? Hall of Fame bound quarterbacks. Okay? There is no perfect. There is no, my matting setting means I complete every pass in a game. I can't be defended. I can't make a mistake. There is no perfect out there. And what Purdy did yesterday was play an imperfect game, yet never jeopardize the 49ers' chance of winning it. And had Purdy hit on a couple of those, it's instead of being 30-23, it's 44-23. Would that have been better? And sure, absolutely. But if your biggest concern is Brock missed a couple of throws while he remains undefeated as a starter and the 49ers are enjoying the second longest winning streak in franchise history, these are good problems to have, folks. I mean, I don't know how much you've been browbeaten with misinformation and biased information, but you can take it from me and Larry. Brock Purdy is very good. And until you hear from either one of us that he's not, you can just assume we're right about that. Kyle Shanahan assumes he's right about that. Everyone who keeps losing to the 49ers would probably make the argument that he's right about that. The kid has got a little bit of special to him. What he lacks in physical attributes, and he has more of those than anyone wants to give him credit for, he makes up for in just being a winner. Well, that means he's a game manager. No, No, he's more than a game manager. Well, he's a system quarterback. Every quarterback is in a system. Every quarterback is a system quarterback. You are literally grabbing on to the most readily available bumper sticker talking points that any idiot could throw at quarterback evaluate. What you're telling me is you're just going to roll a cliche at me. You're not going to analyze anything. Brock Purdy can play. Brock Purdy, half the teams in this league would trade their starting quarterback for Brock Purdy right now, Larry. Right now.
I mean, come on. I mean, Jeff Deeney, who covers the Niners for Pro Football Focus, says, not counting the Eagles game where he played with one arm, Brock Purdy, 65.1 grade yesterday, was the lowest of any start of his career. And aside from the missed deep throws, he played a very solid game. He has set the bar pretty high. I think that's safe to say. I think that is very safe to say. I mean, come on. I mean, excluding the NFC Championship game, this guy's 8-0, and the Niners have scored 32 points a game, and they're winning. Their point differential in those 8 games is plus 129. They've outscored their opponents by 129 points. So say what you need to say. Do what you need to do. Whatever you got to do to get comfortable, get comfortable. But this guy's real. And he's a big time player. I mean, he doesn't, there's just no way around it. He's a big time player. The guys in the room believe in him. The coaches believe in him. I'll say this: I've interviewed Tom Brady. I've interviewed Drew Brees. I've interviewed Russell Wilson. This guy has a lot of the same mannerisms and vibe around him that those guys had. Those guys were very humble, nice guys, would answer your questions, but there was this simmering, competitive chip on the shoulder that all those guys have, and Brock Purdy has it. And I recognized it the first time I talked to him. I'm like, oh my goodness, this guy is real. So I mean, he's a good football player. And then if you heard him in the post game after, in fact, I'm going to share the screen right here and let you guys hear this. So you're going to hear Brock Purdy here. And when you hear this, this is what you want your quarterback to basically say in these situations. Here he is. Here's Brock Purdy yesterday in the post game.
I'm the one to BA, the one.
Here we go.
I just overthrew him. I'm the one to BA, the one Debo, and then JJ on that third down. It's just those are on me. I gotta be better. I gotta hit him in stride and not overthrow him. Simple as that.
There you go. I mean, he doesn't run from it. They won the game. He took care of the football. He took care of the football in Pittsburgh against a hostile rush. I think what we saw yesterday was, Brock Purdy's floor. And that's pretty damn high. And you can win a lot of football games if that's your floor. He's playing the game at a really high level. His teammates believe in him. The ball that he threw to Debo is slightly overthrown. You're taking some shots down the field. People would have lost their mind this morning if those balls had been underthrown. Instead, they were overthrown, and people are like, yeah, he couldn't complete the deep ball. He struggles with the deep ball. No. All these people that are he struggles with the deep ball. No. You guys told us all year that he couldn't get it there. That's what you said. You said that he could not throw the deep ball because he could not get it there. Well, yesterday was a perfect example of that ain't the issue. He can get it there. There's enough arm strength there.
These are people who need to keep changing their talking points to invent ways to sound like they might have been right on a topic they're completely wrong about. That's what's going on there.
Right. I got to throw one more here too. There's so many uninformed people out there, Damon, that this one is just phenomenal. And I'm sure you've seen this. This has to be one of the highlights of the sound weekend that was. Here is our favorite.
Bosa on the outside. You got arm.
Well, here we go. This is.
But one
Shannon Sharp.
signing that went unnoticed is that you mentioned Bosa on the outside. You got Armstead, but they signed Jerome Hargrove.
Well, I just heard it. I just heard mispronounced names, and I just heard a sequence of names. What did he say there?
Shannon Sharp was trying to talk about Javon Hargrave and called him Jerome Hargrove.
Jerome Hargrove. Hey,
Jerome Hargrove.
If you're not scheming for Jerome Hargrove, you are going to be beaten at the point of attack.
You don't cover everything. You only cover football. In the world of football, you don't cover every level. You just cover NFL football. There's a limited number of names, and you're going with Jerome Hargrove instead of Javon Hargrave?
I did say Sam Bradford several times.
You did.
I did say Sam Bradford several times, but I have had a stroke. Has Club Shay Shay had a stroke?
I don't know. Jerome Hargrove.
Look out for Jerome.
I tweeted out the key to the game today, folks, is Jerome Hargrove. Jerome Hargrove. Hey, let me read a couple supers here, and then we'll get back on check. Ty Budd says, I'm new to Bruce, but 2 consecutive weeks I've heard shots at Grant. Some history there seems more aggressive than need be. No bias on my part. It jumps out.
Yeah, there's a lot of history there. His family is I don't even want to get into it, but
don't get into it. Don't get into it.
There. It's not worth talking about. Is it personal? I wouldn't say it's personal as much as I can prove that they just lie and bullshit their way through any talking point as a family. So there you go.
All right. There you go.
That. I got receipts.
Damon speaking only for Damon here. Clarence Molina says, Larry, I think Wilk's still evolving with this defense. Okay, that's fair to say. He's early in the process.
8 quarters in.
Matthew Rowley says, why do ex-players, namely the Mannings and Pat McAfee, deny that halftime adjustments happen and make fun of people saying it? Are they a thing or not? Well, it's funny. I was just saying to my kid last night, I'm like, it's amazing to me how fast halftime passes in the NFL. I mean, you can make adjustments at any point, and it could be on the sideline, it could be a conversation with a coach at a commercial, it could be anything. They always just talk about halftime. Those guys run in, they probably have time to check their phone, go to the bathroom, wash their hands, and get back on the field. I mean, seriously, there's no time at all in an NFL halftime.
Have an orange slice. What they do is they talk about what is and not, what is working, what's not working. Let's double down on what is. Let's eliminate what is not. And if,
quick wisdom.
If halftime adjustment is too much of a flowery explanation, then I could see why McAfee and Peyton Manning would talk about this. First of all, Peyton Manning wasn't even coached during game. Like, he ran the entire offense himself. He was making the halftime adjustments in his own head. And Pat McAfee was a punter. So he doesn't know anything about adjustment. Kick the ball far that way is the only adjustment he ever made.
Yeah. McAfee was just being told center, left, or right, and that's it. Jesus says, Larry, was the Rams offense more dynamic in the first half? I just think that Stafford and Nakua is just a ridiculous combination, and it's going to be impossible to stop for almost everybody. That kid's going to wind up with 100 receptions this year. WTM says, minus Purdy's overthrows on Brandon Ayuk, Debo, and JJ, do we score 44 points? LOL. To see us still finish with 30 points average with all those overthrows is scary. Exactly. You just saw probably the floor. We've been talking about ceiling all offseason. You probably saw the floor of Brock Purdy, and they scored 30 on the road. Johnny Granado. Hey, Johnny. Mike LaFleur is the OC for McVay. Ran basically the Niner offense against us in the first half. Yeah, that's a good point. It's a very good point. We got this one from Mike Monahan. Larry eats fake veggies made of meat. Thank you.
Nice. It's better than eating fake meat made of veggies.
Exactly. No tofu here. Blaquiza says, why wasn't Purdy credited for a touchdown on the screen pass to Debo on the stat line? He wasn't? No, he was. It was a little bubble screen. He threw it to him.
It must have been just considered a handoff. That must have gone down as a running play for Debo, because when you look at the 49ers box score, I don't believe Purdy got credit for a touchdown. Let me just open this up.
Double check that. Double
checking. Purdy, no touchdowns, no interceptions.
I thought it was maybe it was considered a run.
Debo Samuel was credited with 5 carries for 38 yards and a touchdown, rushing touchdown. So
Wow.
it was counted as a rushing touchdown, even though it was a screen pass. It must have been right. So at the line of scrimmage, they just
Was it not a pass? Was it a pitch? Was it like a halfback toss? To me, I thought it was. To me, that's not how I saw that. But whatever.
thrown backwards. I'm
not really sure what to say on that one.
I didn't even think of that. But there you go.
Jan Evander says, love how Huff held back and didn't end Nakua's life on his last reception. Respect. Polynesian respect. Huff's the real deal, though, man. Huff's a tremendous player. And then we got this one. It's not a super, but it says True Blue for Eva. Says, you hated the Purdy pick, Larry? Why? Was it the final pick in the draft? It was the final pick in the draft. I just thought, it tells you how much I really thought of Purdy based on what I saw at Iowa State. The quarterback that I saw at Iowa State was, to me, a college quarterback and nothing more. I didn't think that he had NFL arm strength, like many of you, I'm sure, maybe even to this moment, don't think that. But I realized that after he went to Jacksonville and worked with those coaches on his mechanics and he picked up a little bit more velocity, that gave him an NFL, an adequate NFL arm. Does he have a big arm? No. And that's why there were so many people kind of holding their breath on this elbow surgery, because the big question was not just would he come back, what would he come back as? But I think we saw it right away, day one of camp, that he came back with enough arm strength. And yesterday he missed some deep balls, but it wasn't because of a lack of arm strength, that's for sure.
No, it wasn't. Again, if you want to sit around nitpicking Brock Purdy, do the same to Patrick Mahomes, because the exact same Brock Purdy incessantly could be applied to just about any quarterback. Look at Zach Wilson and the way that he threw 3 interceptions yesterday. Would you rather have that? Look at Josh Allen. Look at the fact that one of the best living, breathing, walking, winning quarterbacks in the world, Joe Burrow, is struggling mightily to begin this year. Folks, this shit ain't easy. One of the biggest cons you've ever been sold is that this is supposed to be easy. The right guys at all times make this look easy at all times. That does not exist, okay? Patrick Mahomes burst onto the scene with a level of success that has literally scrambled the computer inside of everyone's mind. Everyone's, well, we need another Patrick Mahomes. There is no other Patrick Mahomes. Everyone was looking for the next Joe Montana. There really wasn't a next Joe Montana. Well, but the 49ers got lucky. They just happened to have Steve Young, the same way that the Packers got lucky, and they got from Favre to Rodgers. Sometimes the lightning does strike twice, but none of this is easy. There's a reason why the Chicago Bears haven't had a good quarterback in 100 years. None of this is easy. Stop falling for any imperfection that I think I can point out is valid. Just stop it. Just stop it. You're a fan of a team. You think that you have the right to criticize and analyze anything. You can talk about it, but you don't even know what you're really analyzing, in the way that some people will say, well, I know more about this than Kyle Shanahan. No, you don't. And the fact that you would even be willing to offer that out loud means you shouldn't even be talking to the adults. You should be eating the chicken McNuggets with the children at the tiny table in the corner of the bar where we put everyone to just shut the fuck up. There is so much broad watching of football and so little actual understanding of football. The sport that is consumed the most is still the least understood by the people consuming it the most.
Well, what happens is people judge. People, we've said this. It's a saying, and people know that it's a saying, but they can't help themselves. People judge a book by its cover. That is reality. And they look at Brock Purdy and they see a small guy and they say he's not good enough. But in reality, he's a small guy who has bigger hands than Trey Lance. He's a small guy, but he probably had better escapability and quickness and functional football speed than Trey Lance, who was the third pick in the draft. So, ultimately, what it comes down to is it's interesting that people get all bent on it when you talk about Purdy, Purdy, in a lot of ways, is exactly what Mahomes is for Kansas City and what Allen is for Buffalo. What did the Niners see in those two guys that made them want to get a young quarterback? One, it was a quarterback on a rookie deal. Obviously, Brock's on a rookie deal, so you got a cheap player. But what they saw was a guy who can make plays from the pocket, but if things break down, and wants to make plays from the pocket, but if things break down, they can buy themselves with their legs extra time and still make big plays off schedule. It's Greg Cosell for the last 5 years. It was like, we talked about the good things that Garoppolo did. Well, he does good things, but like he wasn't a good late in the down thrower. In other words, after the play that Kyle designed didn't work, Garoppolo could not then buy himself extra time and make big time plays with any consistency. He was not a good late in the down thrower. But Mahomes does do this, and Josh Allen does it, and Brock Purdy does it as well. He buys himself extra time. He has escapability. He keeps his eyes posted down the field, and he makes plays. He has enough of an arm to challenge you deep. He processes really well every single play. He takes care of the football. If you process what you see, you take care of the football, you're surrounded by the weapons he's surrounded by, and you can make plays off schedule, you're there. It's turn off the film. It's time to just enjoy. And the Niners have found this player. And is he the perfect player? No. And can he be criticized? Yes. And he's willing to take on that criticism and look inwardly to make himself better. He's not the guy walking around going, man, I've arrived. He's not. He's a humble, hardworking, I'll do better next time kind of a guy. You know who's bothered the most by Brock's overthrows yesterday? Brock.
Right.
Seriously. Right. He is. He's walking around today bothered by those overthrows. That's the kind of guy he is. So they're in a great spot at quarterback. Come on, let's be real.
Welcome to your 10 a.m. hour. You are watching 49ers Wake Up. It is the day after 49ers football morning show that is taking over the entire Bay Area, not by Larry and I's choice, by your choice. Thank you so much for tuning into us, whether you're watching on my channel, Damon Bruce Plus, or Larry's channel, The Krueger Show. I know so many more of you are watching The Krueger Show. He's got this awesome response and audience. Somebody here says, dude, I like this Damon guy. How do I sub to Damon? It's real simple. You go ahead and you sub to Damon the same way you sub to Larry. Just hit subscribe, hit like, hit notify, and you won't miss a thing that we're doing either separately or together. Larry and I work separately and together. It all works out great when it comes out in the wash. Somebody says here, Mr. Bacon, Egg, and Cheese Croissant says, Damon, I love that when he's not doing his podcast, he's solving the cure for cancer. Look at it this way. Have I ever even considered cancer? I would have solved it by now, but I didn't use any of my brain power on cancer. I decided to talk sports for a living. Bad for humanity, good for sports fans. So here we are over here. And Mitchell and Ness says something that I just have to address here, Larry. I don't mean to call
Mitchell and Ness will sometimes run a little hot.
He says, stop acting like Brock has won multiple Super Bowls. You need to stop acting like he's lost a single game.
Yeah, he has not lost any games, Mitchell and Ness.
He's 7-0 as a starter. He's never lost a game in which
he's never played in a Super Bowl.
There you go. And the reason why the Niners didn't play in a Super Bowl is because he got hurt in Philadelphia. Well, who knows what would have happened at the end of that game. Results are not guaranteed. But if you're saying, Damon, stop acting like he's won multiple Super Bowls, you need to stop acting like he's lost a game. He hasn't lost a game in the NFL. Undefeated, not good enough for you? I don't know what to tell you. Right. I really don't know what to tell you. If undefeated during the second longest regular season win streak in franchise history isn't good enough for you, you really need to be following another fucking sport.
Well, and let's throw a little stat out here to throw a little perspective on this, okay? There have been I think it's 83 quarterbacks or something like that drafted in the first round in the last 25 years. It's some ridiculous number. It might be 70. Six of them have won Super Bowls. 6. Most quarterbacks don't win Super Bowls. So guess what? If you're going to sit there and say Brock Purdy sucks until he wins a Super Bowl, really? That's where we're at?
Great.
He's total garbage until he's won a Super Bowl.
Come on. His next chat is great defenses will prop up any average quarterback. He's putting up 30 a game, you douchebag. You can win with bad defenses when you're getting 30 a game from your offense. I mean, I don't have
30 a game. Think about it this way. The best offense last year in pro football.
Yeah.
Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
They averaged 29 a game.
Oh, so it's better than the best.
He's averaged more points per game than Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce.
Not good enough.
And the Kansas City Chiefs.
Not good enough, Larry.
By 4 points a game. He's beating them by an average of 4 points per game in scoring. Forget defense. We're just talking about scoring. And everybody forgets too. This same killer defense that Brock Purdy is winning all these games with. And I watched Jimmy Garoppolo against the Saints last year. The Niners scored 13 points. 13 at home against the Saints with CMC. 13 points. That's what they scored.
The Kansas City Chiefs have scored the same amount of points this year as the Chicago Bears. If Brock Purdy ever did that, you would have people jumping off of skyscrapers and beautiful bridges all over the Bay Area. You panic when there's nothing to panic about. So when he actually does have a bad game, which is going to come because none of this is perfect, none of this is easy, what are you going to do then? If you can't recognize the sweet, stop selling me the bitter. The amount of people out there who have just been brainwashed.
There's just so many people. There's so many people on Twitter who are, and I mean, some of these comments are just over the top. Jesse's talking about people are afraid. He says people are legitimately afraid to have an ounce of criticism of Brock Purdy. He's never lost in the regular season. He says it seems an honest conversation isn't allowed, and the mob comes if there's ever a perceived slight of Brock. A perceived slight of Brock? Jesse, come on, I love you. But, I mean, let's be real here. There was several content creators who put out hundreds of tweets that were anti-Brock and pro-Trey Lance in this hope that somehow the Niners would move Brock aside and go with Trey Lance, who's the third string quarterback in Dallas. It's like the reality is that Brock does things that some of them are easy to see with your eyes, but some of those things some of the greatness of him, are things that are more difficult to see. And, it's pretty obvious. It was obvious to Shanahan that they're going so obvious that they gave Trey Lance to their most hated rival for a 4th round draft choice. That's what they thought of Trey, and his future. And Brock has just, done nothing but win games and be criticized consistently in this offseason. I mean, let's be totally honest about this. If the shoe had been on the other foot and Trey Lance had the kind of success last year that Brock Purdy had, people would have been hailing him as the greatest future thing of all time. But because they judge the book by the cover, and Brock's a smallish guy and he doesn't have the big arm, and a lot of his gifts are beneath the surface and they're more intangible related, it's like people took shots. People called him dink and dunk for weeks. That's a disparaging comment. People who actually said that they was dink and dunk, and then saying, "Oh, but I like him." No. You can't disparage somebody and then say you like them. Yeah, I called her a whore, but I really like her. No. You called her a whore. Okay, you can't. You called him dink and dunk. You can't say you called him dink and dunk and you really like him. So there are people, lots of people, who have done exactly that. They've said, he's dink and dunk and this and that, but I really kind of like him. No, you don't. You just know that you look foolish to rip a quarterback who's undefeated. So you're giving yourself some wiggle room. But in reality, the results matter. The results matter. And the results are tremendous. This guy played maybe his worst game. The Niners just scored 30 on the road and beat a divisional opponent who I think is going to win, probably 9 games this year. They just went into Pittsburgh and slapped around the Steelers and had the fans chanting, "Let's go Niners" in the fourth quarter. I mean, this is some impressive stuff, so I don't know. I would say come aboard the Purdy train at this point, but maybe not. Maybe just stay where you're at. Everybody might be just happy enough where they're at.
Yeah, look, Raymond Martinez very reasonably weighs in here on the chat saying criticism is fair when Brock comes out and says he has to do better. I believe Brock will be better as the season goes along. He hasn't played a full season yet, can't get triggered by honest discussion. The point is the points that Brock Purdy is not good at his job are not coming from a place of honesty. They're not coming from a place that is based in actual football results reality. It's based in the opinion of someone who is he's the Fox News of NFL 49er content creation. He has an opinion. He wants to sell it to you. And that's what he has to sell to you. And as the season is starting to materialize, you're finding less value in that sales pitch, aren't you? So everyone's scrambling now because you've been conned. You've been led astray. You're following the wrong Pied Piper. Larry and I are here to finally play the musical notes that matter. So you're welcome. By the way, thanks so much to Palmetto Superfood for sponsoring us here on 49ers Wake Up. We are not only just doing it this day, we'll be back doing it on Friday as well after a Thursday nighter, and we're going to get into the rest of the NFL slate here in just a second. But I want you to scan that QR code.
Wait a second. Breaking 80 says, haters going to hate.
Sure are. DBLK15 is the promo code to get yourself 15% off at Palmetto Superfood. Try the acai bowl. You'll be happy that you did. Larry, we got about a half an hour left. You ready to go through the
Let's do it.
Of this league? Because it looks like the New York Giants are going to be in here coming off a very 17 fourth quarter unanswered points. They rally to beat Arizona. That's a good thing because now the Giants, I think, can come in here and say, hey, look, if we lose on a short week, we're not going to go back 0-3. It's not going to be humiliating. The Niners are really good. And they might be without Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley has a sprained ankle. He gets an MRI this morning. I haven't seen any of the results from that, but it sounds like they're giving him the MRI to determine whether or not this is the kind of sprain that's going to take 4 weeks to recover from or just 2 weeks to recover from. Barkley playing on Thursday feels like a pipe dream based on all the coverage this injury has gotten. The Niners are -10 in this game in Las Vegas on a short week, Larry. 49ers and Giants, no Saquon. I like the Niners a lot in their home opener. Don't you?
Well, yeah, my only concern is the Niners have struggled against quarterbacks who move well, and Daniel Jones moves really well. I mean, Daniel Jones had 9 carries for 59 yards against Arizona yesterday, and he's one of the faster quarterbacks in football. But, yeah, if you take away Saquon Barkley, I guess it's the Matt Breida show. They do have some decent receivers. Jalen Hyatt, the rookie from Clemson's good. They've signed Darren Waller, or traded for Darren Waller, I should say, from the Raiders. He's obviously one of the NFL's better tight ends. Isaiah Hodgins, who's a Walnut Creek kid. He went to Berean High School out here in Walnut Creek. He caught a touchdown yesterday. Paris Campbell can run. Sterling Shepard's got good hands. Darius Slayton's a big receiver. But, yeah, I mean, the Niners should handle this Giants team. I mean, the Giants, through the first half of that game, have looked awful. I mean, just absolutely awful. And the Cardinals let them back in it. I mean, they wound up with 31 in the second half, and they were down 20 to nothing at halftime, and they come back and score 31 points in the second half to beat the Cardinals in the desert 31-28. So, I kind of think this Giant team is going to be one of the better teams in the NFC. They do have 2 guys coming off the edges in Akeem Ojulari and Kayvon Thibodeau, who can wreck shop. I mean, these guys definitely
really good. Thibodeau's really good.
Thibodeau and Ojulari's, played at Georgia. He's a tremendous athlete. I didn't see him in the box score yesterday. Maybe he's hurt. They've added Isaiah Simmons, Ashawn Robinson's over there. They got the big man in the middle, Dexter Lawrence, who's kind of like the anchor of their defense. They got the former Stanford backer, Bobby Okereke. So I mean, the New York, the thing about Thursday night, it always seems like it favors the home team, and the Niners are the home team. But you know what, the Giants are a team that always seems like they play the Niners tough, and I'll just say, like, none of these NFL, you can lose to anybody in the NFL. I mean, that's the thing. It's the games are short, and a couple turnovers either way, and all of a sudden, you wind up losing. So it's all about taking care of the football and just doing what they do. Take care of the football, and things will be just fine. But the Giants offensively yesterday piled up 439 yards against Arizona.
And again, Arizona doesn't even want to win football games, to be totally honest with you. They are in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. But a rousing win for the Giants that will prevent them from being the caged animal that is defending itself at 0-2. They're 1-1, which means they come in here a little bit more comfortably. I like the 49ers to take advantage of them on a short week. I really do. They're staying in Arizona, by the way, before they're not going back to New York before they come out here. I want to talk about the expectations that we have seen sort to, build or disintegrate through just 2 weeks of football. Your 2-0 club, by the way, in the AFC, it's only two teams. The Dolphins and the Ravens are the 2-0 teams in the AFC. Now, the Browns can join them tonight. The Browns play one of the two Monday Night Football games. The 2-0 club in the NFC has 6 teams in it. The Niners, the Falcons, the Cowboys, Eagles, Commanders, and Bucks being the surprise entrance to the 2-0 club. And the Saints play tonight. The Saints could be 2-0. But I want to talk about, after 2 weeks, we got reputations taking beatings, Larry, and we got to start with the Cincinnati Bengals. Burrow's calf is barking at him. It's the same calf that he hurt in the preseason. The Bengals have been outscored 57-21 so far this year. And even worse, attached to their 0-2 record is they're 0-2 in their own division through 2 games. So the Bengals couldn't have crafted a worse start in the world than what they are underway with through 2 weeks here of the NFL season.
What's happened to Jamar Chase? I mean, Jamar Chase had 5 catches yesterday for 31 yards. I mean, he's supposed to be the best receiver in the game. And so far we haven't seen it. They also had 0 sacks of Lamar yesterday, and they only got 1 hit on the quarterback. So, I mean, that's part of it. It doesn't seem like their defense is doing a whole lot for them. Burrow signed a big contract. Joe Mixon's a little long in the tooth. It's a 1 running back type team. They got a bunch of receivers. They added Irv Smith as the tight end. They have Jamar Chase. They got T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. But yeah, I mean, Cincinnati is 0-2 and 0-1 at home, and the Ravens are 2-0. To me, the team that I think you got to watch for is the team that's going tonight. I think the Browns. I think the Browns are a much, much better football team than people are giving them credit for. I think they win tonight against the Steelers, in Pittsburgh. Deshaun Watson did not necessarily play well in their 24-3 win against the Bengals. But if you look at the Browns, the Browns have Nick Chubb running the ball. Nick Chubb is a tremendous back. I mean, he went for 6 yards a pop against Cincinnati in Week 1. They've added Elijah Moore, who's a really underrated receiver, to go with Amari Cooper, David Njoku, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Marquise. Yeah, they've got some weapons. But really what I love about the Browns is the line of scrimmage. They got a good O-line. They got a good D-line. Now, they lost Conklin for the year, but Dawan Jones steps in at right tackle, and you've got Wilfs at left tackle. That's their offensive line. On the defensive line, you got Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith off the edges. You got Denzel Ward, Grant Delpit, Greg Newsome on the back end. You got some nice players. JOK, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I like the Browns. I think the Browns are a sleeper team. Now, it's all going to be predicated on what kind of player is Deshaun. And he was, in Week 1, he was 16 of 29 for 154, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. He was sacked 3 times. If he gets it going, I really like the Browns. When you're good on the line of scrimmage, you're good.
I'm not going to hold this over you or try to embarrass you with it, Larry, but I didn't hear you stumping like screaming it from the mountaintops that you believe the Chargers were going to win a Super Bowl. But you did pick the Chargers to go to the Super Bowl. They're 0-2. And since 1990, 31 of 270 teams that have begun a season 0-2 have qualified for the postseason. Not very often, just 31 of the 270 teams. Now it's a 17-game schedule, so the math is going to change a little bit on it. But the Chargers are operating from a bad spot. There is a lack of belief in the head coach that I believe is becoming a reality. And Chargers are not off to a good start. They're a talented team who can't put it together through 4 quarters like ever.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday they went without Eckler, who's their number one back. They were leaning on Joshua Kelly. They only averaged 2.9 yards a carry.
Joshua Kelly's pretty good, too.
Yeah, he's good. He's good. He started at UC Davis. He played at UCLA. Joshua Kelly's not bad. But, Herbert is one of these guys that he looks like, the quarterback out of Central Casting, and he doesn't win games. I mean, he's basically 500. He had 2 touchdowns yesterday, no picks. It wasn't like it was all his fault or anything. But they just don't win games. I mean, they don't win games. They've got, good weapons. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Gerald Everett's a good tight end. On defense, they've got some of the best individual talents in the sport. Derwin James, Joey Bosa, Asante Samuel, Khalil Mack. They did have 5 sacks yesterday against Tennessee, so that was good to see. They didn't hardly do anything pass rush wise in week 1. The Chargers have lost to 2 football games here, but I still and it was a wild stab taking the Chargers out of the AFC because the Chiefs were the chalk. I think the Bills and the Bengals were probably the second pick, third pick. But
Jets became a cause celeb with Aaron Rodgers, and that's where I kind of wanted. The Jets are 1-1. Zach Wilson, he got the confidence. He had his team supporting him yesterday after a 3-interception afternoon. They're not trying to blame their lost season on him, but Zach Wilson is like, they can't keep running him out there with 3-interception games week in, week out. They're going to have to do something other than just play him the rest of the year. Robert Saleh owes it to that team to improve a little bit. Basically, Zach Wilson's entire day was a 68-yard touchdown pass to Garrett Wilson, which Garrett Wilson had 55 yards after the catch to take that to the house. The rest of it was a bad day, and the team can rally around Zach Wilson all at once, but the Jets are an unmitigated disaster based on the fact Aaron Rodgers has gotten hurt, and they are going to be all over our primetime schedule until they can be flexed out of it. And
that their OC sucks. Come on. Hackett, is a terrible offensive coordinator. You saw what he did last year in Denver. He was terrible. They have Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook, and they ran yesterday 16 times.
Yeah.
In a game that was 8? They were down 18-10 at halftime. So what?
Right, that's still in striking distance.
You're still in strike. Your leading rusher should not be Zach Wilson. Though I don't know if you saw Breece Hall. Breece Hall came out and said the reason we lost is I only got 4 carries.
There you
go. He
had
4 carries for 9 yards. Breece Hall. He's tremendous. Dalvin Cook had 4 carries for 7 yards. It's. I just kind of wonder about the offensive coordinator there. I wonder about the quality of their offensive line. They couldn't defend CeeDee Lamb to save their life, by the way. CeeDee Lamb, 11 for 143. Garrett Wilson's a tremendous young wide receiver, but the Jets have got to win with their defense. And their defense had 1 sack all day of Dak Prescott. I mean, when Prescott's dropping back to pass 38 times and you can only sack him 1 time, that's going to be a long day at the office. And sure enough, it was.
The Raiders fell on their face in Buffalo, Larry. Jimmy G. This should sound very familiar to 49er fans. Jimmy Garoppolo, 185 yards after a touchdown on his opening drive to give you hope that he would later rob you of with his 2 interceptions. It was the classic Jimmy G game where this time he doesn't win it. The Raiders have Devontae Adams now in concussion protocol, which, look, football's a violent sport. You can't blame anybody getting hurt at any time. But you want to take players off the field in non-leverage moments, and Devontae Adams should not have been on the field. The play where he got concussed, Larry, happened down 4 touchdowns in the 4th quarter after a decision to punt had been made earlier on 4th and 2. So you're conceding the game You're no longer playing aggressive, but you're going to have Devontae Adams out there. Shame on Josh McDaniels. That's like the worst beating he's ever caught as a head coach. Most lopsided score. The Bills righted the ship. The Chiefs righted the ship yesterday to get to 1-1. No real surprises there. A huge surprise is that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield are 2-0. They might be a soft 2-0, but nobody had them 2-0 on their bingo card.
No. And I mean, I'm not a huge Baker fan, but he's learned a little bit along the way. I mean, there's no question he's definitely a better player. And to me, I don't know if that's really about the Bucs or if it's really just about the Bears. Did you see the terrible interception that Fields threw on his own goal line? I mean, that was just the most.
Dude.
How do you run 4-4 flat and get sacked 6 times? By the way.
First of all, how do you have the greatest uniforms maybe in football history and come out in those orange Sherberts yesterday? Oh my God. It just,
but you can't even say that Herbert doesn't, that Fields doesn't have receivers. He's got DJ Moore. He's got Chase Claypool. He's got some receivers, Robert Tonyan, Cole Kmet. It's not like he's got nothing. Velus Jones. I mean, they've got some decent receivers. Darnell Mooney. I mean, they're just not good. I mean, Fields looks like every game, it just looks like it's his first game. It's really bizarre.
That's how it's always been for the Bears at quarterback. I mean,
Tampa had 6 sacks and 10 hits on Fields. 10.
Yeah, just terrible.
10 hits. How does Vita Vea, who's literally a Coke machine with shoes. I mean, the guy's 6'4", 355. And he got 3 hits on Justin Fields, who runs a 4-4 flat. How? How did that even happen?
Larry, how are the Broncos 0-2? Russell Wilson, they've lost 2 games by 3 total points. But Sean Payton, he talked a big game about righting the ship. It is yet to be righted. And I'm just going to tell you that Wilson's contract in Denver, it's got all the earmarkings of maybe easily pointed to as one of the worst quarterbacks of all time. He's still got 161 in guarantees and no easy way out before the 2025 season. And even in that year, it'll still count $31 million against the cap. It's a disaster. It's an unmitigated disaster in Buffalo, and Sean Payton showing up
in Denver.
In Denver. And Sean Payton just showing up has not changed the prospects of that team. Not yet anyways.
Well, once again, another quarterback that's his leading rusher. Russell Wilson was their leading rusher. Not only is Denver 0-2, they're 0-2 at home.
Yeah.
But I'll say this, the rookie receiver from Oklahoma, Marvin Mims, is real. He's real. But, I mean, this is another team. Where's Jerry Jeudy? Jerry Jeudy was a first-round pick. He's not doing anything.
Is he hurt? I think he's hurt, though.
No, he played.
He
played. He played. He had 3 catches for 25 yards. They threw him the ball 5 or 6 times. He only caught 3 of them. I don't know what to say about Denver. And you know what? I'm kind of rooting against Denver because Sean Payton came in and at the presser, he ripped the hell out of Hackett. Now, I don't think much of Hackett. I just told you how I feel about Hackett. But still, that's bad form, man.
It is.
You're going to go on the first presser and you're going to tear down the former coach. Just coach.
Right.
Just coach. If you're that good, we'll all see the comparisons. Instead, he had to talk a big game. And to me, when you talk a big game, you probably can't back it up.
Larry, I have to back it up and get ready to do a show at 11 a.m. on Damon Bruce Plus. I'll invite everyone over there to join me. Click like and subscribe. Thank you for joining us today here on the Palmetto 49ers Wake Up Show, which will be back on Friday. But Larry, this has been an awesome 2.5 hours of 49ers discussion and NFL wrap of week 2. I'm excited that the 49ers get to usher in week 3 on Thursday night. And we're going to be all over that game, doing post-game shows. We're going to be together the morning after again at 8 a.m. And there we go. Thanks to everyone. 3
super chats here. Christopher Folan says, absolutely love Damon Bruce. Glad he's on with Krueger.
Christopher.
There you go. Then we have Brady Hill who's taking shots. He says, don't get another stroke, Gramps.
Doing the best I can. Thank you.
Really nice. I'm sure he cares a lot about you. And this one, 49er fan LA says, Grant brainwashed all of his followers. Okay, there you go. So a little medley of discourse on the way out there. We got this one as well from Mountain Cat, who says, "Great show, guys."
Thank
and
you.
we will be here Friday morning for the third edition of the extravaganza, which we're looking forward to bringing you guys on a regular basis. Brought to you by Palmetto Superfoods, San Francisco Burlingame, San Jose, Palo Alto. They're in the Metreon in the city,
Larry,
and future locations coming left and right.
Like you should have called. You should have called the show Red Dawn. That's a really good name for this show, but we got the brand already. It's 49ers Wake Up. Thank you for being here with us today, and scan that QR code right now. Use DBLK15 for 15% off a one-time purchase of Palmetto Superfoods. Thank you, Larry. Thanks to everyone for watching, for tuning in. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. It's so good to have football back. It really is. Larry,
no doubt,
my friend.
Thanks to everybody. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Thanks to Charles and all the good people at Palmetto Superfoods. Go get an acai bowl. That's your homework assignment. We have very few homework assignments on the Larry Krueger, Damon Bruce extravaganza. One is that you, between now and Friday, get into a Palmetto Superfood, get an acai bowl, and then Damon will have one as well. And we will compare notes Friday morning on your acai bowl. And Larry, do not be late to class.
Larry, you're the man. Thank you so much, buddy. This was a lot of fun. As always, looking forward to doing it again on Friday morning, 8 a.m. We'll see you there.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever you bring me, getting handled. I am